Long minute. Okay. All right, so welcome everyone. This is truly thrilling to see this group here tonight. So I'm going to call the select board meeting to order on July 7th at 6:30 p.m. And I'm going to switch the order of the first two. We're going to do public comments second, and we're going to start with something that is pretty thrilling to be able to be part of. So Chief Puntini, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Great. Chief Puntini, thanks for having us to your select board's meeting to recognize some of the members of our department. So over the past month or so, we've had a few fairly significant incidents in town where we thought it deserved recognition to the members, and make sure it's visible to the board and the community. And we thought this was a great place to do that. So two incidents to start, though. I'd like to make a little statement, and then we'll talk about each incident individual and have the members come up. Edward Croker served as the chief of department for the fire department of New York from 1899 to 1911. He was on scene of some of the country's most devastating and influential fires in history, to include the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire in 1911, where 146 workers were killed, prompting his retirement to pursue a mission of fire safety and building safety codes, which many we still live by today. I give this brief history to share these two quotes. These were by Chief Croker. When a man becomes a fireman, his greatest act of bravery has already been accomplished. What he does after that is all in the line of work. And our proudest moment is to save lives. Under the impulse of such thoughts, nobility of the occupation thrills us and stimulates us to deeds daring, even of supreme sacrifice. Most, if not all, the firefighters in this room and anywhere in the profession will tell you much of the same story when asked about their service to their respective communities. But on occasion, public recognition is warranted, even when not desired by those we spotlight. This is the reason we're here tonight. The first incident I'd like to talk about is a response to Crystal Pond Road on June 7th. With that, I'd like to ask Captain Doan, Captain Amendola, Firefighter Pacific, and Firefighter Kip to come stand up here somewhere, please. However you want to be comfortable, that's fine. So on June 7th, 2026, Southborough Emergency Communications received a 911 call reporting a fisherman that fell out of a boat and did not resurface in a small pond off Crystal Pond Road. Engine 22 with Captain Brittany Doan and Firefighter Travis Pacific, and Ambulance 29 with Captain Dana Amendola and Firefighter William Kip responded. Upon arriving on scene and confirming the report with the witness, Captain Doan requested the District 14 dive rescue team be activated and immediately began rescue operations themselves. This consisted of carrying an inflatable rescue boat, water rescue suits, rope, and advanced life support medical supplies about 100 yards into the woods by hand. Although we hope for a better outcome, the swift actions taken by the first arriving Southborough firefighters here tonight gave the victim the best possible chance of survival with the resources we had at hand that night. For their teamwork under pressure, the Southborough Fire Department is issuing a unit citation to Captain Doan, Captain Amendola, Firefighters Pacific, and Firefighter Kip. Which we have here tonight. So these are the certificates. For them, it'll also come with a badge that they're able to proudly display on their Class A uniforms. Okay. So that concludes the Crystal Pond Road incident. So thank you. Next incident was on June 11th on Pinecone Lane. I'd like to ask to come up Captain Roach, Firefighter Rice, Firefighter Stapleton, Firefighter Kip, and Firefighter Brascio. On June 11th, 2026, Southborough Emergency Communications received a call for a worker stuck in a tree and injured. Engine 22 with Captain Jason Roach, Firefighter Christina Stapleton, and Firefighter William Kip, and Ambulance 29 with Firefighter Matt Rice and Robert Brascio responded to the scene. Captain Roach also requested the Marlboro Aerial Tower en route. On arrival, they confirmed the report and activated the District 14 Technical Rescue Team when realizing the worker was 2 out of reach of the Marlboro Tower truck. Members on scene were able to work with the tree crew and ascend a firefighter to the injured worker to remove him from a tree to an awaiting ambulance before the district resources arrived on scene. This complex, unplanned, but rapidly executed incident allowed for a successful patient outcome for a patient that was later transferred by medical helicopter to a level 1 trauma center with serious injuries. For the successful execution of this complex incident, the Southborough Fire Department issues a unit citation to Captain Roach, Firefighter Rice, Firefighter Stapleton, Firefighter Kip, and Firefighter Brascio. Oh, they're out of order. Sorry, I thought they were in order. Oh. All right, thank you, guys. If Firefighter Kip can remain, the rest of you guys can take your seat. So last award. So when the initial call for this technical rescue was dispatched, Firefighter William Kip here immediately understood the complex nature of this call. Being a member of the Vermont Urban Search and Rescue Team, Firefighter Kip fortunately had his gear in his car, which he was rapidly able to gather prior to responding and loading the engine 22 with him. Once on scene, he assessed the situation, speaking with the crane operator on scene and Captain Roach. Firefighter Kip harnessed himself to the crane and ascended to the patient's side some 60 to 100 feet in the air. The patient's injuries were unknown and the possibility of life-threatening injuries, if not immediately treated, was real. Firefighter Kip made patient contact, disentangled the patient from the tree, harnessed himself to the patient, and safely lowered both himself and the patient to the ground. Firefighter Kip then immediately removed his own rescue gear and jumped into the back of the ambulance to assist with patient care and transfer to the landing zone where the awaiting medical helicopter was standing by. The Firefighter Cross is awarded for heroism in saving life or attempting to save life at risk to self. I cannot think of a better description to describe Firefighter Kip's actions that day. For that reason, we're going to award Firefighter Kip the Firefighter's Cross. Thank you. That concludes our brief ceremony. We appreciate you guys allowing us to be here tonight for this. Happy to entertain any questions if you have of any of the incidents. If not.
So the thank you is from us to all of you. You just don't know. I got chills right now seeing all you here in your uniforms and hearing these stories. I didn't understand the detail of the last story. So all I can say is I personally live in a town that I feel really safe because of you guys and the police department to bring them into. I think we have got wonderful departments. I think each one of you are great. And when I hear this, it just makes me know how right I am. So I'm so glad we did this tonight. I'm glad we heard the detailed story of the last one. And thank you so much for what you do to keep this town safe. Andrew?
Echo that, phenomenal work and very proud of you all. And thank you for doing so much for the town.
I don't really have anything to add other than what's been said. Thank you very much.
Kathy said it quite well, so thank you very much.
I have my thanks as well. Thank you, folks. Great job. Thank you.
And for coming out this rain too.
Well, thank you.
So we're going to take a couple minute recess because I don't think they're going to stay for the rest of the meeting. You can. It is truly amazing what they do. Okay, back to the regular meetings. Okay, so I reversed public comment in that. So now we're going to go back to public comment, which is a chance for the public to speak for no more than 3 minutes on a topic they'd like us to be aware of, but that we will not respond to because it's not on the agenda. Okay, so Paul, Joyce will go first and you go second. She already hopped up there.
Thank you, Kathy. I want to read, Joyce Greenleaf, 4 North Street, also Chair of the Stewardship Committee, speaking on behalf of Stewardship. So I wanted to read the letter I sent to the Select Board today, so others who are interested will be aware. I was disappointed that the Select Board chose not to include the Stewardship Committee on its agenda for its July 7th meeting, as discussed in the last meeting. On June 23rd, the Stewardship Committee met and discussed the implications of the Select Board's recent vote to not reappoint Freddie Gillespie to the Open Space Preservation Commission, a position that cascades to a designated seat on Stewardship. As I've shared previously, Freddie is a critical member of the Stewardship Committee. The stewards are in the midst of major projects that benefit enormously from Freddie's input and experience. For example, we are battling new invasives, calorie pear and creeping buttercup, that Freddie identified. They require management, coordinating with multiple contractors to employ the most effective techniques. Freddie's knowledge has helped Stewardship and ensured our invasives management plan, now being developed by an outside expert, address these before they become larger and more costly problems. Other projects underway that I have shared previously include establishing a new roadside meadow, restoring the farm dump area to meaningful habitat, and repairing the Beecology meadow that incurred significant damage from the farm dump contractors. And Freddie's expertise is key to all. Furthermore, Stewardship's effectiveness will be undermined without her, and Breakneck Hill Conservation Land will suffer. Breakneck Hill has become a major destination for nature lovers, photographers, birders, dog owners, and butterfly clubs, among others, because of its beauty and the habitat it provides. That habitat did not happen by accident. It was through Freddie's expertise in stewardship, redressing the aftermath of its agricultural history, introducing desirable native species, and managing invasives. The Select Board should celebrate and promote those accomplishments. And Freddie's attributes, commitment, expertise, passion, time, should be valued by the Select Board and a volunteer. At our June 23rd meeting, Stewardship took votes unanimously supporting the following recommendations to the Select Board. A change in Stewardship's designated membership by removing the Open Space Preservation Commission seat and replacing it with an at-large seat, appointing Freddie to that at-large seat, and maintaining Stewardship's current mission without change. Finally, we sought and received the Conservation Commission's support on these 3 items and expect that the Select Board will hear from that commission as well. Actually, I do believe you heard from them today. The stewards hope the Select Board will factor these votes in support of the Conservation Commission in its deliberations. And I respectfully ask that stewardship be included on your next agenda in August. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul?
There's a copy of what I have to say. It's distributed, I appreciate it.
I understand the Board of Selectmen is considering combining the Southborough Open Land Commission with the Stewardship Committee. Just have a couple of comments. Whether the commission should be, the 2 committees should be combined. I understand that the Stewardship Committee is responsible for the care of the Breakneck Hill Conservation Area. That particular area is very near to my heart. It's probably my most favorite place in the world, where I walk my dog, who's no longer with me. Open Space Preservation Committee responsibility to serve as facilitator for protecting and preserving and maintaining open spaces in the town. This includes identification of and advocacy for the acquisition of open land by the town to increase and protect open land in the town. These two purposes are very different from each other and distinct. Combining these two separate committees and their purposes doesn't make sense to me. If you want to combine committees, you got to make sure they have different purposes, okay, or the same purposes. Whether Freddie should be reappointed to each of these committees, every town needs a person who is a strong environmental advocate. Make sure that that point of view is taken into account on every project. As I think you all know, as an engineer, I find it important that all points of view are taken into account and are balanced. You can't be a successful project manager on projects without doing that. And that's where I think Freddie comes in. Southborough, that person is Freddie. She donated countless hours and energy to protect the town's natural environment. She's personally devoted to protecting and enhancing the ecological well-being of Breaknut Hill conservation areas. And if you walk there, you'll see her work. She's also helped to identify and advocate for the town to purchase and protect some of the remaining open land in town. I recommend that Freddie be renominated to these two committees, and I recommend that these two committees remain distinct. One is for taking care of the Breakneck Hill Conservation Area, and one is to advocate for open land in town. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. All right, we've got a busy night tonight and some good stuff on this agenda. Okay, so we are going to start out with what we do annually, which is approve transfer station fees for the next fiscal year and approve transfer station regulations. Now, AD, help me here. Do we have to open this public hearing like we do normal public hearings?
You get a liquor license first.
Oh, I am so sorry. I can't read my own writing here. Okay, so Bill, sorry, you're not going to go first here. I've got to do the liquor license first.
Virtually, so it's.
Okay,
if you'd
sorry,
like
Bill.
to-
This, I don't think this is going to take that long, so. All right, so never mind. We're going to consider approving a transfer of an all alcohol retail license for either Turnpike Food and Liquor or Turnpike Wine and Liquor, which we'll get them to clarify, at 65 Turnpike Road. And I believe we have their attorney, and I believe we have either one person or maybe two people from the actual business.
Yes. My name
Okay.
is Sydney Prokos. If you can see and hear me okay, I can see you.
Cindy, we can see and hear you. And Vanessa? Everybody else?
Hi, I'm Munir Patel.
Yes, I am. Yes.
Okay,
I
hold on,
see
Cindy.
you. You guys are coming through.
Okay, Cindy, hold on a second. Okay, Mr. Patel, is your attorney with you?
Sydney's my attorney.
Okay, I thought your attorney was someone that, a different name.
Matthew Porter. We're from the same firm.
Okay, all right. Okay, so Sydney, do you want to start off here?
Do you want me to read them?
Okay, we're gonna read the notes for the hearing. Sorry.
Notice is given under chapter 138 of the Mass General Laws that Cabins LLC has applied for a transfer of an annual package store all alcoholic beverage license currently held by Virgin Mary Mother of Light Incorporated DBA Turnpike Food and Liquor located at 65 Turnpike Road, Southborough, Mass. Described as a one-floor, 2,660 square foot across one room, basement at 1,064 square feet across three rooms with three entrances and three exits. Proposed manager on record is Munir Patel. Public hearing will be held by the select board acting as local licensing authority. Thomas W. McAuliffe, hearing room, second floor of the townhouse, 17 Common Street, Southborough, Mass. On Tuesday, July 7th at 6:45 p.m.
Okay, so the hearing's open. So Mr. Patel, do you want Ms. Prokos to talk or do you want to talk?
She will be talking.
Okay, go ahead, Sydney.
Thank you. Sydney Prokos, an attorney from Vieira and DJ and Filippo, and I work with attorney Matt Porter, who you see on the application. I represent Cabins LLC, doing business as Turnpike Wine and Liquor, which is purchasing Turnpike Wine and Liquor located at 65 Turnpike Road. I'm here tonight with Mr. Munir Patel, who's the 100% owner of the company, and Mr. Pratik Patel, the proposed licensed manager. Monil is an owner of several other stores across the state that have liquor licenses. So he's an experienced industry veteran with over 10 years of experience responsibly selling alcohol in Massachusetts. Pratik has a technical background, working at a bank and a medical school, but for the last 2.5 years, he's been on site in a convenience store that holds a liquor license, working as a clerk, doing inventory, essentially running that store, and that experience selling alcohol responsibly in Massachusetts. Once approved by the ABCC, Pratik will be on site here at Turnpike Wine and Liquor at least 40 hours a week. Both Pratik and Monil have experience and education, which is what the ABCC likes to see. That education is their alcohol tips certification, which they have currently, and they will keep current. Prior to ABCC approval, we'll make sure we have those in my file. As an additional safeguard, they're investing in a state-of-the-art ID scanner and POS system because they take underage sales so seriously. They are getting a commercial loan from Rockland to help finance this transaction. So along with this transfer, we're also seeking your approval for a pledge of license and inventory to their lender, Rockland Trust. And as a note on the pledge, Rockland is not in the business of running these types of stores. So any subsequent purchaser would need to come before you, the board, for any approvals before anything could be sold or moved if, God forbid, these borrowers went in default, which is obviously not on our radar. But I just wanted you to know that you do, of course, maintain all control in the future, and no alterations to the premises, no changes to external operations, mainly internal movement here. And I am here to answer any questions.
So thank you very much. So, Monil, are you and Pratik brothers?
Sorry?
Are you guys brothers?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So Pratik, you're going to be on premises 40 hours a week?
That's correct.
Okay. And Monique, I believe you operate 5 other similar establishments currently?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I just have one totally superfluous question. I've never heard of where one of them is. Phillipston?
Yes, ma'am.
What state?
Massachusetts.
It is? Okay, I never heard of it. Is that out in your neck of the woods, man?
Central.
No, it's next to the town of Ethel and Gardner, in between along Route 2 line.
Okay, just wondered, never heard of it, so thank you very much. All right, I don't have any questions. You clearly are experienced in doing this. We want businesses to come to Southborough, so we try to be as business friendly as we can. So I'm going to turn it over to the other 4 members for their questions. Sam, we'll start with you.
Thanks. Any history of ABCC violations for any of these stores,
No violations on record.
existing stores? Okay. Experience is a big thing for me. It sounds like you folks do have experience, which is a good thing. So no other questions from me. Thank you.
Tim,
I have no questions right now.
Andrew,
I don't have any questions.
AP.
So Pratik, I assume you're going to stop working at the Blackstone location that's listed on your employment. That's current?
That's correct.
Right? And then you'll switch over to this one? Okay,
I'll be spending more time here at Southborough location.
that's the only question.
Really? Okay.
Once we get the name figured out.
Okay, I just thought you had a lot of questions. Okay, all right, okay. Okay, so it looks like you've got a very friendly board tonight, so no more questions? Okay. Samuel, will make a motion to approve the transfer of the liquor license?
I move that the board approve the transfer of the liquor license as presented.
Second.
Okay, any further comment? Okay, all in favor? All right, so you got a 5-0 vote, guys. So I think we're done. We'll just close the hearing.
Congratulations. Welcome to South.
Does it need to be
Congratulations.
contingent on anything, like the new certificate?
We
And
did
the
get the
tip certificate?
we had the new certificate today.
And were we just waiting on the tips?
We have all the tips. We have everything.
All right, perfect.
See, I thought you had more questions.
Oh, Mark.
Okay, so now I think we're all
Would've
set
run
as far. Okay, so I think you guys are all set, City. Thank you very much. We're going to
Thank
close the
you.
hearing now.
Just to
So-
confirm, this approval includes the pledge, correct?
the pledge to
as
recommend?
presented. Yes.
As presented, yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you so much. Appreciate
Thank
it. Thank you all.
Thank you. Seriously, welcome to Southborough.
Welcome to Southborough.
Okay. All
Thank
right.
you. Thank you.
Okay, so I would make a motion to close the liquor license hearing.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
So do you go through Phillipstown on the way home, Bill?
No, I don't. That's north. But
I mean, I've
Just
never
know where
heard,
it
is
is.
anybody, do you guys know it? I've never heard of it.
My family's from Athol, Boylston, Phillipston, Templeton,
Yep, Royalston.
all that whole area, yeah.
Well, I think one of his locations is in Vermont, right? Maybe, so I thought maybe he had one in Vermont too. Okay, Bill, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Okay, so now to introduce you, so we are going to tonight talk about transfer station sticker rates for fiscal year 27. And we are going to talk about proposed changes to the transfer station rules and regs. Now, we published this, the notice of this hearing like we were supposed to because of Mr. Dinnington. Thank you, Andrew. And do we need to open this hearing like we do the formal ones, or is this an informal?
It's informal.
Okay, all right, so
We
we
don't
have
have to
to,
wait till-
okay,
Yeah.
all right, okay. All right, so sounds like we're ready. So, Bill, do you want to start with the rates? You want to start with the rules?
I'd prefer to start with the rules and regs.
Okay.
And then the fees.
All right,
So the rules and regulations, as you know, we've been trying to improve the rules and regs, and we kind of inch along every year. First crack at the whip, we basically took the existing regulations, which were kind of a mishmash format, and restructured them, didn't change them, and basically reiterated them in a more logical flow. So this is the first year we're proposing some revisions to those regulations. So now we have a good base to work off of. We can make those edits, or if you'd like to or not like to, that's up to you. But we have proposed some things, and these are basically changes from that we're recommending from patterns of operation, trying to improve operations at the transfer station. And we think these, while some of them are small, some are large, we think it's going to be an improvement for the experience for the typical Southborough resident. Now, given that, I'll just quickly run through the types of changes that are in the proposed regulations. And then if we wanted to drill down on any particular topic, we can. So the first change is we just corrected and updated dates, very administrative. Second is revised the table of contents as we restructured things. We next corrected email addresses. That was the .com to .gov change that we had. I left blank spaces for the permit fees that we'll decide after this is discussed. We also revised our prorated sticker fee calculation for new residents. When someone comes in halfway through the year, we prorate the sticker fee that we sell to them. And last year we had change involved, meaning, cents, dollars and cents. That makes it difficult accounting wise in the office. So we're just rounding up to the nearest dollar. Very simple, straightforward. We are proposing to revise the temporary pass section to include a fee for temporary pass, nominal fee, $15 a day or $25 for a week.
and that only includes people who already have stickers that are going to use a different car?
That's correct.
Okay.
That is correct. The reason and the logic is it does take time for staff to deal with this, so nominal fee. We do find that, there might be instances where we allow temporary passes where people are doing it, whether they're helping a friend or whatnot. So this nominal fee may avoid some of that. That's the expectation. We added a swap shops policy section, okay? And that's probably the biggest change that we're talking about. Where we've had a pattern in history at the swap shop of taking everything under the sun. At times it does overflow and spill out onto the lawn area. We're just trying to establish some parameters on what makes sense to take and what doesn't make sense. We're not married to the recommendations, I expect these may change over the next year or two, but this is the first crack at it. So this is what we're proposing. There's things like we don't want glass items for safety reasons. We talk about a lot of times people bring in outdated computer equipment. We don't want that. We find that some residents may view that as a creative way to dispose of things that aren't allowable either in the hopper or, it's kind of an end run for disposal for them. So we're trying to straighten that out. And lastly, we revised the violation and fine section to include a provision that suspension or revocation of the transfer station privileges for repeated or egregious violations. I don't expect we'll need that. We haven't had a need for that, but we think it's a good thing to have in there in case we have a problem. So that's it in a nutshell. If anybody wants to get into specifics on any of those issues, happy to talk about it.
All right, I think you're going to have a few questions on maybe swap shop. So Andrew Dennington, I'll start with you.
Okay, so for the adding of a part for suspension or revocation of the sticker for repeated or egregious, is there like a pattern that has happened that's prompts that, or?
There's not. We have some structure now, and we regularly get complaints about, somebody sees somebody disposing of something. We try to take it up and we send out our violation notices.
Yeah.
We've never had any issue we've had, I think since I've been here, 2 fines that we've issued.
Yeah.
And other times we've issued violation notices and have not had a problem. I think this is just an appropriate provision to have as an option.
Okay, I'm okay with it. I just wanted to ask if you felt like there was a problem that was,
There's no motivation or problem that's been really identified.
And the swap shop policy, would you post it by the actual swap shop?
We would. We'd send out a mailing. We
Okay.
do every time we send stickers out. When we sell the stickers, we do share a copy of the regulations, the current regulations. So, we try to educate people. We have a new person up in the recycle area that's really good with people and he interacts quite a bit. So, I'm sure he'll be monitoring the progress on this. And it's going to be a learning curve. We know that. And it's really just to try and keep it a little more organized. There's a section on not allowing furniture up there.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm thinking we're going to do is maybe have like a bulletin board up there. So if people have a couch or something they want to get rid of, they can post it on the bulletin board, and it's kind of like a way for people to still see it, but then the physical couch isn't there.
Right. And so this is not directly covered by these rules, but are you finding there's issues with people who are not even residents, using the transfer station, both for using the hopper and then also for the?
We do get that on occasion. We do send out violations, although often they're out of towners.
Yeah.
There's no way to we have no hammer.
Yeah.
In that instance.
We're going to talk about a hammer in a minute, so it's a good conversation to start.
So we have no mechanism to enforce from out of towners.
Yeah.
But more often than not, I think we get complaints from residents that are using the facility, thinking somebody's doing something inappropriate and it's not.
Okay.
After we review it and do our due diligence, we find that more often than not.
Like there's often I sometimes see people throwing away just a ton of stuff and they have a commercial license, but they are also a resident.
Yeah, the license plate has nothing to do with the permit that they have. Commercial waste, as defined in the regulations, really talks about the volume and the frequency.
Okay.
So if you have a kitchen renovation project, our preference is that you're going to throw out those cabinets and everything. You're going to hire either a contractor that's going to dispose of it, or you're going to get a dumpster or something along those lines. You can come back. I'm not sure off the top of my head what the volume is, But if you exceed that, we keep track of it to some extent. And if it's an abusive thing, then we'll send out a notice and we'll have a conversation. We're not out there to just rattle people, but we are, vigilant when it comes to violations.
All right, those are my questions.
All right, Tim, you want to go next?
Sure. So the clause that Andrew asked about the superintendent revoke, does it need to have something about without reimbursement or any kind of like monetary comment just to make that stronger? Because like if you can revoke somebody's thing, we paid for this. I mean, like, should it be there to be clear?
That's a good point. We could modify that to include something.
Okay. I was just thinking it might need that from a clarity. And then is there an appeal process like that somebody could follow? Is that something we should also include in that fringe instance? Maybe it'd be something that would come before us.
I
or
know
something.
that there is an.
Is it?
Mark. Top of the paragraph.
Okay.
So I would suggest we modify that to say instead of residents may appeal a fine to the select board, residents may appeal fine or revocation.
Okay, yeah. And then the furniture piece of the swap shop. There's a lot of furniture over there, and sometimes there's some gold mines over there. So I understand why it's there, but I wonder if eliminating all furniture is the right action. I'm thinking that there should be something else to this, or if you want to bring furniture, it has to come on maybe a Wednesday or something earlier in the week before it would end up in the hopper over the weekend. So like, I think maybe I would be open to a date or a time that you could drop something off. So that way it has the least amount of opportunity to end up in the hopper and become a problem. Because I do think that that's beneficial.
Right.
So I would be interested in maybe.
Do you think there's value in having a bulletin board for those types of items, the larger items? And that's the problem. So we do throw out a lot of the stuff that starts off at the swap shop weekly.
How much do you, I think this is important to understand, how much percentage wise do you think you throw away every week?
60 to 70%.
So it's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot over there, and some of it should not be over there. So the problem is people bring things over there inappropriately and they drop it off, pretending that it has another useful life. It doesn't.
Right.
But I do think the bulletin board would be pointless because we already have Facebook groups online and stuff that people have. So it's kind of it's easier and faster to do it the other way than it is to go over there, post up a bulletin, and then hope somebody calls you, because like the process already exists in a different format. Maybe if you're not online, but I mean, most people are available online. So I would think that I wouldn't really support the bulletin. I don't really think it's a good and updatable thing to keep.
2 of your 5 select board board members don't do Facebook and whatever, so we wouldn't see it.
Hey, then you guys can have a different opinion on this topic, because right now I just don't think it's necessary. And I've seen the Free Cycle page do really well. And people post furniture there, like couches, all the time. So I think furniture should maybe be like maybe a Wednesday or Thursday, or maybe there's a day that we could go over there and it could be less likely to end up in the hopper than a Saturday at 5 o'clock. Those are really my only 2 from the rules section that caught my eye.
AP.
All right, Bill, here we go.
You've got a lot, right?
I have a lot.
Okay, so let's do Sam first, and then we'll come back to you so you can kind of.
You're assuming I don't know a lot? Wait a minute.
Well, Sam, Sam's got the unique perspective is that he is up there on Saturday and hears a lot and sees a lot. So I think his perspective is important. So you go next, Sam.
I'm troubled by the furniture thing. People basically aren't going to listen too much. If you tried to say it's, only Wednesday or Thursday, it's a real chore to police that, because there's not somebody who stands over there at the swap shop all the time. So it's hard to do that consistently, I think. If you can't enforce consistently, then people claim you're not being fair about it. I would comment that there's a new staff person over there. I don't remember the gentleman's name. Mark, who does a wonderful job in terms of educating people. He knows almost everybody who comes through there by now. He hadn't been there too long. And people like him, they chat with him, and he educates people, and he talks to people who don't have stickers and finds out what's going on, and encourages them to get stickers. So it's really a very light touch enforcement, but I think it's hugely effective. So kudos to the organization for finding him and hiring him. I think he does a great job. It would be a lot harder if you were more, hard-nosed about it. People want to cooperate generally, so that's good news. The only question I had, Bill, in terms of regulations here is, and I think this is a great step forward. I was a little confused by the temporary pass thing. And so maybe adding a for example there to say that for permit holders who have an unpermitted vehicle for access to the transfer station, parens, for example, a permit holder who has a rental vehicle for a short period of time, something like that, as opposed to my original thought was, wait a minute, is that somebody who doesn't have a permit at all, who buys a $25 weekly permit or whatever? But with that example, I think that makes it more clear that you got to have a permit to start with. We're not selling $25 week-long permits for somebody out of town or whatever to come in and dump their stuff. So, but also to me, this is something that will continue to evolve. You change it and find things that don't quite work, and so we'll come back and do it again next pass. But I think it's a great step forward. So that's all I've got. Thank you.
All right. So I'll go next because again, I think Andrew's going to wrap all this up for us. Okay, so I have a particular issue with the swap shop. I have so much sympathy for your guys that have to clean up that mess. I don't use it very much. I just happen to be there, and I called you after I was there. It was, probably at the worst time, late Saturday, right? And it was just a mess because of what people do and the stuff that was in it. I looked at that. Nobody would want a lot of the stuff in there, which is validated by the fact that you throw away 60-70% of it, right? So I am going to support anything that your experience says that we should do as far as trying to tighten that up. I agree with Sam, the Wednesday or Thursday for furniture drop off probably won't work. So if you think that that's what you do, we'll put the list up there and I would see the list. So Tim, I'm actually just joking with you. Most people would see the Facebook list. But I would like to do something cleaning up. Now, a few years ago, before your time, when Karen was still here, we had a group of women, I think you guys remember this, that volunteered to monitor the swap shop. And they would go up there, they would straighten it up, they would talk to people about what they could or couldn't do. And it was really pretty nice looking as far as that goes. And then I believe, if my memory serves me correct, Karen was worried about liability issues and so stopped it. And then there was a time where we talked about getting rid of it, and the town said no to that. Town clearly wants a swap shop. But I think that we've got to support you in trying to not make this a full-time job, clean the thing up on the next day, as far as that goes. So if this is what you think needs to be done as far as the swap shop, then I personally support what you're trying to do here as far as tighten this up. Let's see how it goes.
All I did was articulate what I got for feedback from the staff that has to deal with it.
Yep.
So that's what the origin is here.
And I've heard the same thing about is he there all 4 days or is he just there on Saturday?
He's there all 4 days.
Right, so I've heard kudos about him too. So that's a great job for him. I do want to, after we've got this, I do want to talk about possibly some type of system to monitor abuse. We've talked about this for as long as I can remember. Mr. Butler was on the advisory committee years ago, long before me, where we were talking about, a gate, whatever. So we've never done anything about it. I was at the transfer station a few weeks ago to say hi to Sam, and a very nice man came up and said, when are you guys going to do something about these people that come up and use it? Now, he may be one of that group who just said, maybe sometimes you don't see the sticker, people put it on different places. So I don't know if he's right or wrong about what he's seen, but he felt that a lot of people were coming and using it inappropriately. So I don't know if he's right or wrong. A license plate reader, I would think with technology, what it is today, it actually wouldn't be that expensive to do it.
It's getting the internet interface up there.
Yeah. So, that's true. That's what, we talked about this last year when I was on the committee. So I still think we should maybe go back to MTC again and say, what can we do that makes sense as far as maybe doing some look at it, cost benefit? Because I wouldn't think a whole lot of new stickers being sold to pay for this, but I do want to consider that too. But I do support what you want to do with the swap shop as far as those rules go.
Sure.
One more thing too, and Sam alluded to it. Jason Malinowski sent, did you get the text today? So he sent us a text and said, you guys should consider, given what Mr. Butler said a few years ago when he looked at trash, that we've got room to add more customers, right? We've got room, that we should have the ability to sell a 1 day, a week, or monthly sticker. I actually don't agree with that, just so you know, but I was going to throw that out and see what you thought. And I'm not talking about someone that already has a sticker, someone that just wants to, normally does private hauling for some reason, probably wants to bring a lot of stuff.
I think with the number of complaints we currently get about out of towners using the facility, that it would just be a nightmare to manage at this point. I think in the future, if we have a better mechanism to check permits, a camera system, AI, then I think it'd be an easier thing to do. But we need that in place first and try it for a year or two.
Okay, before we just sell one-off stickers for a small period of time.
Correct.
Okay, that's kind of what I said back to Jason, but given Jason's, he was on the capital committee that worked with John on this, so I just wanted to make sure we at least threw that out there
Sure.
as a consideration. Okay, that's all I've got. Andrew.
All right. So Bill, under the hours of operation, my suggestion was to add something there, and I'll send you, marked up version, but DPW may temporarily close a transfer station at any portion of the facility, including swap shop, recycling areas, brush area, or disposal containers due to weather, staffing, equipment failure, capacity, safety, contamination, traffic, construction, or other operational needs. So just kind of give you that blanket statement there, which I think is good.
Be clear what you're adding here.
Yep, he's adding.
Into our hours of operation, just adding.
You added the whole thing.
That whole, section, just to kind of give clarity, because sometimes, you get there at 5 on a weeknight, sometimes the swap shop's already closed because you're short-staffed or whatever, so.
Surprisingly, just along those lines, there are people that are meticulous about, the time. We even have to usher them along at times. We have staff that's willing to do that.
Yep. The other one I had is just changing the date from the 16th to today for the 7/7.
Right.
Under temporary passes, to Sam's point, I had something in here for temporary passes are for short-term household use only, such as use of rental vehicle, borrowed vehicle, or vehicle temporarily replacing a permitted vehicle. Temporary passes may not be used by contractors, landscapers, haulers, businesses, non-residents, or for commercial waste.
Perfect.
So kind of the same thing there, but just added it in. Under conduct, you talked about strictly prohibited some things there, but I wanted to add a little bit more in terms of users may not loiter, block traffic, interfere with staff or volunteers, engage in abusive, threatening, or disruptive conduct, dump after hours, leave materials outside designated containers or buildings, or remove items from areas not expressly designated for public reuse.
That excludes me on Saturdays. I'm a loiter.
Well, that's the only hiccup there is, often you're going to have people, running for office or selling something or other.
Boy Scouts, Girl
Yeah,
Scouts.
right. Yeah, we do get that on occasion.
Yeah.
I wouldn't consider that loitering.
We're not trying to get rid of that at
Yeah.
all.
No, I think it's just, right.
That's part of the transfer station.
Exactly. I wouldn't call that loitering. I would call that permitted uses. But we can define that language a little cleaner if you want to adjust it there. Under the rejected, prohibited items, I thought this was an important statement to have in there. Rejected or prohibited materials remain the responsibility of the resident who brought them. Such materials may not be abandoned at the transfer station and must be removed from the facility or disposed in a proper designated area with any applicable fee. Under the acceptable waste, there was something about the small kitchen appliances may also be left at the swap shop, which you had kind of taken out, although I kind of added back in, but I changed it to small kitchen appliances. Working items may be left at the swap shop only if allowed by the current swap shop policy and approved by staff. Just for that one. And then I'll get into the swap shop use. I kind of have a lot on that one. We have the appeal. I added the denial or revocation. And then I added a section after the superintendent may suspend or revoke, that the town may recover costs incurred to remove, handle, transport, recycle, or dispose of improperly placed, abandoned, rejected, or prohibited materials. No new transfer station permit will be issued while fines or assessed disposal costs remain delinquent. So it kind of gives you, not only do you revoke it, but you cause this cost to remove it and dispose of it, and we're not going to let you.
Enforcement or recovery of that becomes the issue.
Correct. What's the legal purpose of that? But
Right.
And then I don't know if you want to get into, so in terms of the swap shop one, I kind of,
Let's hold for a second. So you don't need to write all this down. He's got it. So this is AI that did all this, I assume?
yeah, with some of my edits.
Okay, so does anyone have an issue with anything Andrew Pfaff has proposed here? Okay, Bill, do you have an issue with anything?
No.
Okay, so, okay, all right, so now swap.
And a lot of it is from other towns that have policies and things that they have added in. In terms of the swap shop, I'll just kind of give you the main differences between yours and my version. The revised version makes clear that the rejected items remain the resident's responsibility and cannot be abandoned at or near the swap shop. Pretty simple. It's kind of on the other page. This was an important one that other towns had that we didn't. As is, take at your own risk disclaimer. So added that in. So basically the town, DPW staff and volunteers do not warranty the safety, completeness, or condition of items taken from the swap shop. I think it's good.
I like that. Yeah.
There's some more in here for the staff. So better control over abuse, loitering, and resale harvesting. The revised version strengthens the non-commercial use rule by prohibiting bulk removal, repeated harvesting, commercial resale activity, loitering, blocking traffic, and disruptive behavior. So, and a lot about like at the staff's direction and the staff's permit. What else I have? So I added, this is a little more flexibility in some of the reusable items. This is probably the biggest change. The original policy broadly prohibits glass, furniture, electronics, and sports equipment. The revised version suggests a more nuanced approach, allows some small, clean, safe, working, one-person carry items at staff discretion while banning high-risk categories. So a lot of it is like from a furniture, if it's not upholstered, if it's small enough for one person to carry and there's room inside the swap shop, then possibly, but it's very confined, and I'll show you the actual language.
I will talk about that one. I don't want to start changing your list yet. Okay, so keep going, Andrew.
Yep. Instead of a broad electronics ban that would conflict with the transfer station rules saying small kitchen appliances may be left at the swap shop if usable. The revised language separates prohibited e-waste from potentially accepted small working household electronic items. So kind of, yeah, some kitchen appliances or something. Yep. Sport equipment, and I get a lot of sport equipment there, so near and dear to my heart. The original ban essentially all use sports gear. The edited version focuses the ban on helmets, pads, guards, ski boots, skates, cleats, and other protective or sanitation sensitive equipment, while allowing for lower risk, non-protected sports items at staff discretion. So like a hockey stick or a hockey stick, a bat, right. Things of that nature, ball, frisbee, whatever.
The intent was helmets and that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of towns have a specific thing. It's like no helmets, no protective gear, especially because it could be dropped and it's no longer protective, etc. The revised policy adds categories commonly excluded from other towns: food, medicine, cosmetics, toiletries, cleaning products, pesticides, batteries, light bulbs, smoke detectors, car seats, cribs, high chairs, pack and play, stuffed animals, pillows, bedding, clothing, shoes, textile, rugs, upholstered items, wet, moldy, pest infested items, and recalled items. I don't think we disagree with any of that. Shouldn't be in there. And then the original already gave staff discretion, but the revised expands the reason staff may reject items: condition, safety, sanitation, space, disposal costs, regulatory issues, operational needs, and consistency with reuse purpose. I think the other one gives DPW and transfer station staff clearer grounds to refuse items, remove items, limit access, and suspend privileges for misuse. So that's basically what ended up changing in there. But it was enough changing that I basically rewrote each thing.
Okay.
Andrew, can I ask a question? You talk about banning commercial resale. One of the things you said there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I object to that in the sense that I don't care if somebody's is a legitimate user of the transfer station is coming there, picking up stuff and selling it. To me, it keeps it out of the pit. and it extends the life of it potentially. So I'm not sure that that's a bad thing, frankly. If they take it and they follow the rest of the rules, I'm fine with them taking stuff.
The reason that this has been discussed in the past is because there were situations where I believe a few people would kind of stay there all day long and take things and they would resell them. I don't have a problem with it either, to be perfectly frank. It gets reused, right? That's what the purpose of this is. So within reasonableness, I don't have a problem with it either.
As long as they don't clog up the system over there.
Yeah. So I leave that to the discretion of your department, as far as determining whether someone's abusing that, without trying to totally discourage it. I'm not in favor of everything on here. So Bill, is there anything on here that you don't particularly want to do?
No, I mean, I think
The sports equipment? That to me is so detailed. I'm not sure how anybody would, I mean, to make people have to keep looking at
simpler
this.
is better when it
I
comes to
agree, I
rules,
agree.
you know, and,
Yeah.
you know, there is a level of discretion that's used by the staff when something is placed up there. So if a hockey puck were there or baseball, I don't know that they'd have an issue with that.
Okay, so what does your proposal say right now as far as sports equipment? 0? You can't do it?
You can't have sports
And
equipment.
this one is clean, non-protective sports equipment such as balls, bats, rackets, or similar low-risk items if accepted by staff.
Okay, what number?
It's item 4, fourth bullet.
Yeah, I think that language makes sense. That gives the staff a fairly good background there to be able to say it doesn't fit or it does fit, kind of thing.
Clean,
I don't have any
non-protective.
issue with
If you take a quick read and just see if there's anything in there. I think it's basically what you were trying to do there. It takes into consideration some other towns pieces, but gives a little bit more. Yeah,
And we're not trying to micromanage you here, Bill.
No.
So,
It's just the wide breadth of items that come through there
yeah.
is why this has to be this detailed.
yeah, and what you can't bring is a lot more detail than what you can bring.
Right.
The one thing that I'd say about your F baby thing, I completely understand why it's in here, but
Which one, which one, Tim?
Andrew's revision of F on number 5. The baby section, I mean, I'm still close to this age right now, but a lot of people will go there for a car seat that they don't intend to use. They intend to trade in during the Target and other sales. So I do know a lot of people will pick up like a seat from over there and then get that as a credit. So not that I suggest that we could do it, but it is saving residents some substantial money when it does go over there. And if it's still within date, I wouldn't personally want to use it if I don't know the history, but at the same time, there's an opportunity to save hundreds of dollars on some of these things.
So your point is,
Banning it right now may not be the best move. I understand why we would want to do it, but I also think that it is a benefit to people and it gets used a lot. And I see a lot of people, especially grandparents, looking for these things and then they trade them in and then get a new one. So
okay, what's your issue? That trading in or?
now my issue is it's a very restrictive list for an area. I understand we have a problem here, but it's what Andrew's proposing here, very detailed. And it's almost overly restrictive to the point that it's not really usable or enforceable, and it takes away from the whole point of the swap shop.
Okay, so what would you like F to say?
Honestly, I might want to just eliminate F. Like, I don't know if it's some of these things are completely necessary to call out at this level of detail.
But the car seats, you don't want to be recycling a car seat that's out of date. That's
Or was in an
dangerous.
accident, it's the same
Yeah.
idea of, you
Yeah.
don't know.
But in determining whether it's out of date or been in an accident is a pretty tricky thing. Somebody's got to spend some work doing that, examining it or whatever. So
Yeah.
to me, it's certainly simpler to say no car seats versus saying only not undamaged, non-expired or whatever car seats are acceptable.
I understand that. My point was expired or damaged car seats can be traded in. So certain people in town, I've seen this and I've done it myself, will possibly look for a used car seat that might be expired or damaged and intend to go take it to a place that will take old car seats in and get a new one at a discount.
Why would anyone take a expired car
Target
seat?
gives you a coupon if you bring an old car seat.
But what are they going to do with it?
They throw it away.
They throw it away.
but they give you a discount.
Way
for
to
it.
sell
And it
more car
saves
seats. Yeah.
it saves a lot of money because car seats have a shelf life of 3 to 5 years with the plastic in a car. So I don't know. It's not necessarily it is our responsibility to decide what we want to do over here. But I think over policing this is not in the spirit of what the swap shop is. I agree that there's a problem that we can try to solve. I think the bigger part of this problem is the bulky things that take up a bunch of space that can't go back inside the shed. So if the rule simply said it has to fit inside the shed, it'll eliminate 90% of the bigger problem here. And if somebody enforces that one thing, you take care of most of the issues that people have going on. And if it doesn't fit, then you can't leave it because it doesn't fit. So if it has to go on a shelf or if it has to go in an aisleway and you paint the center divide that's blue and it says if it's in the blue section, it can't be here. Maybe then that's the solution. It goes in the hopper or you post it someplace else. I think we're going to a level that we don't need to go to.
Well, I agree. We need to try to keep this simple so that people know what they can do, what they can't do. So Bill, what do you think about taking F out? Do you have this in front of you?
F is one of the items that specifically, one of the members of the staff brought up to me because frankly, it's something none of you talked about. It was potential for biohazard type.
Okay, so you want FN.
Yeah, I think there's a value for each one of these. I wouldn't have suggested it if I didn't think there was a
I
value.
would support unexpired, undamaged car seats.
But it doesn't say that here. It just says, it says all car seats.
The problem, when you get.
I understand you can't-
Sam, enforcement.
Hard to tell.
becomes
That's
the
right.
question.
Yeah.
Also, the high chair that I use primarily for my kids came from a swap shop. So, there's certain things on this that are just excessive.
I still think I don't want to micromanage what Bill wants. If Bill, based on his experience, thinks this should be in there, then I'm not going to,
Specifically, Andrew Fast.
This is my version.
okay.
Andrew
I
Fast.
thought you said you had this in here too.
I had a version of it, yes.
Okay.
There's something about sharp.
I suggest, since Andrew Pfaff just had this nice in-depth version, that we give Bill a chance to take a look at this, come back to another meeting with what he thinks now that he has all this extra information in our comments. And then we look at a revised one and see if it's overly.
I think I think we're getting really in the weeds.
I do
This is a
too.
one
I do too.
meeting.
I don't think it's our right to get this far in the weeds with this thing. But
Can I just suggest something? If something proves to be an issue, from the draft that we have that I presented, if something proves to be an issue, let's put it on the shelf. We'll pull it out. We will actively, and we'll deal with it next year.
I wish that you could do this yourself without the select board having to do this once a year. I think this is way in the weeds here. Invoke Mr. Hamilton for a second. And you guys run this place, you know what goes on up there. So I wish you just had the right to set your rules. And if there's something that we didn't agree with, we could override this. Okay, so Andrew, what do you want to do? AD.
It sounds like the version that Andrew put together, you're okay with it.
I am, yeah.
Okay. And if 60 or 70% of the stuff that's left there just goes in the hopper anyway, we should be looking to have a policy that has less stuff put there.
Yeah.
So,
Less junk put there.
yeah, so I think that the policy that you prepare here is if it works with Bill, I'm good with it. I think it's more helpful if we can get these things, in advance of the hearings so we have time to review them. I don't think the whole, I know people make fun of it and tease at this whole procedure.
We're never
we
gonna
have,
stop doing that.
of how rules and regulations have a different procedure for everything else. But the whole idea was that so people would have more advanced notice of what was going to be in them before. And this is just.
So Tim, are you okay with everything here except for F?
No. This is the first time I'm reading through this and I would want to spend more time with this. If I look back to what Bill has in the packet, I would suggest taking out E and F of what's in the packet, which is toys and games and sports equipment. There's obviously reasons that those two should be in there, but I also think that they kind of overstep a little bit. I don't mind keeping the helmets in. I don't mind keeping like maybe protective gear in, but I mean, all used sports equipment. I mean, this literally goes as far as saying that you can't drop a basketball off over there. Like, this is over policing. We don't need to do this.
So, Bill, if we were to put this back on the August 11th agenda, our next meeting, right? And give you time to digest. I mean, this is not fair to you to throw this at you on the fly like this. You digest this, you come back with a revised one that you're happy with. Would that be okay? We keep the rules and regs in place that we have right now until then, right?
That's fine.
Is that okay?
Just one caveat, we should approve the rates.
We are going to, we're
Okay,
going to.
We need
We're going
to.
to. No, we're going to do the rates.
Yeah.
We're going to do the rates. Does anybody disagree with that as a plan to give Bill a chance to digest all this?
Sure.
Sam?
That's fine.
The only suggestion I might make is, I think we were okay with the actual rules and regs one, and then hold the appendix and just do the appendix.
Let's just do the whole thing on
Okay.
the 11th, okay?
That's fine.
All right. Hold on, Paul. We've got somebody else in the audience too. Okay, good enough?
Yep.
For that part of it, we're going to do the rates next. So Vanessa Kristen Lavat is in the audience. You want to bring her over? Go ahead, Paul, while she's coming over.
Thank you, Kathy. I'm in the rain, so can you hear me okay?
Okay, Paul, you'll let her, Kristen, hold on a second. We've got someone else in the room that's going to go first. You'll go next, okay?
Sure, if you
Paul
can just
Carter,
mute me, because I can't.
Paul Carter, 6 Hillside Avenue. The swap shop is great. It's one of the most important recycling aspects. My wife loves it, but she comes home and she says, there's all this trash here. Okay, so the problem is when people leave trash. So I think that needs to be what's focused on, getting people not to leave trash. And I'm with Tim definitely on this. It serves a purpose. When kids grow up, they go through different stages and they have to buy new toys, for the next year, rather than something that's just left there. I think that's important. What I was thinking is that people need to be informed, and this needs to be very general, is that you can't leave trash here, and use general words for that, okay? And if you don't, you can be fined, or lose your privilege. Because it is a privilege and it is a right. And I would say on the furniture thing is actually something that does get recycled. It's a problem sitting outside, and maybe it needs to be either a day or whatever. But when they closed the transfer station that was at the garage, okay, we thought we were going to lose it. Unfortunately, we didn't lose it. Okay, and we got more room for it. But I think you don't want and you don't need a legal document here, and that has all this legal stuff. I don't think you're going to have anything left to be able to leave there. Okay. So anyway, my point is what? It's great recycling. It's very progressive of the town to continue to have it. There needs to be some very clear signage, right in people's face that makes it clear that they can't leave, just anything there, trash and stuff. And maybe it doesn't need to be as legalese. Those are my 3 comments.
Thank you. Kristen, are you still there?
I am, thank you.
Go ahead.
I just said before that I was driving in the rain, and I wanted to make sure you could hear me. I just wanted to add, it is Kristen Laval, 12 Southwood Drive. I'm actually an admin on our free cycle community on Facebook, so just shameless plug for that. It is more of a site where we say, if you really want this to stay within the community, we really tightly administer to make sure it's only people within the Southborough community. So that kind of takes care of it. If you want to take the extra care to make sure it's not being resold or ends up with someone in the community, that is a great resource. I think Tim's really got his finger on the pulse of the community. And Tim, I appreciate, because I see you out on Southborough Community Share and Care, and I think going there and recycle, you can get a good sense of what people think of the swap shop versus free cycle. And you've got it right. This is for people in need. If someone's hanging out at the swap shop all day to get items to sell, there's clearly a need there. And I couldn't agree more with the baby supplies. And I think a couple quick signs to be like, remember not to reuse, baby seats is easy, but most new parents should know that. And I'm sorry, it's scary if they don't. But what my main point is, Kathy, you brought it up in the beginning. We had a system of volunteers. Like most of the people in the free cycle site were really enthusiastic about it. And Karen understandably wanted to get rid of it because of liability. Why don't we just tackle that issue? How can we overcome the liability issue and get the volunteers back in so we don't put the onus, as much of the onus on policing it, to the transfer station, and try to educate the community? Well, why don't we just go back and also take a look at how to make that possible? Thank you.
Right, thank you, Kristen. Okay, all right, so we've settled what we're going to do on the rules and regulations. Now let's talk about the fees. Okay, so Mr. Kunda prepared and Tammy prepared a spreadsheet that gave us 3 options. Andrew Pfaff asked for a 4th to be added, which we have in front of us. So we got 4 options that we could consider, or we could decide to do something else. Sam, you want to start as far as what you think? And remember, to me, the big issue is what to do with seniors compared to everybody else. And I do want to start out with making sure everybody understands that there is a process in place to give a free sticker to someone that needs a free sticker because of their economic circumstances, regardless of their age. So that's already in place. That's not what we're talking about as far as anything else. We're talking about those that are able to buy a sticker.
Kathy, before Sam starts, can Bill have a chance just to talk about the fees? Because I think there's a larger discrepancy here if costs have gone up, which affect the fees greater. So I'd like to just understand that a bit better.
Sure thing. As you know, we've had between retirement and staff changes, we have new staff at the DPW, specifically with the operation of the transfer station. Currently the tractor that hauls the waste is one that's a manual transmission and it has a clutch, and you need to be trained on that specific machine to get that specific license to operate. Currently, we don't have a person in the department that can drive that. So that means we have to hire out to do that. And we've been doing that while we're getting our staff trained to operate that equipment. So that fee is going to cost us about $62,000. We projected about 6 months to get the staff trained. So that's built into here. And as we've done our fee calculations, the historical practice has been to have a differential of $100,000 between expenses and revenue from the transfer station. So there's a number of ways to skin the cat, and that's why you have 4 options here in the table. Currently, option 1 basically mirrors our current fee structure, and you can see that we're nearly double on our delta. So we're 196,000 when that number should be, we try to target about 100,000. So if we kept everything the same, we'd be an additional 100,000 in the deficit. Option 2 is a little closer to 100,000, it's 132,000. That's increasing the non-senior permits from $295 to $320, maintaining the second permit fee as is currently $25. And then senior permits would go up from $50 to $75. And a second senior permit would go up from $15 to $25. Our third option gets us closer to that $100,000. That's increasing the non-senior fees from the current $295 to $300 for one sticker. The second permit for a non-senior would maintain the same at $25. The senior permit, the first permit would go up from $50 to $150. And the second permit would be maintained at go up from $15 to $25. The last option, option 4, maintains about $100,000 differential. Again, the proposal there would be the first permit for the non-senior would go up from $295 to $330. The second permit would be maintained at $25. The senior first permit would go up from $50 to $100. And the second permit for the seniors would go up from $15 to $25. So those are the 4 options that we've provided for your consideration.
And before we start talking about all four, the $62,000 of cost for the contractor, right? You believe that's going to cover half a year, and you think by half a year you'll have a staff person that can do that.
We'll have at least one, if not two.
So next year, theoretically, the cost would come down and it's $60,000.
That's right.
Okay. And I also, for those that haven't been involved in this very long, the reason we carve out that 100K for the general fund is because the town uses the transfer station. And the original 100 came because the cost used to be 500,000. It was 20%. So that's where that 100K, the genesis of it came from. Just FYI, if that's relevant to your decision. All right. Okay.
I have a question just in general about that truck in particular, Bill. So we're gonna get
Hold on, Tim. Let's go one at a time. So I assume you don't care what we do here, that these are for, so this really is up to us. So this one is up to us. Okay. All right. So I'm going to start left to right again. Sam?
Is option 4 Andrew Pfaff's option?
Yes.
Correct, okay. Interesting, I have option 5.
Okay, so
Which is pretty close to Andrew's. My proposal would be 320 and 20 for the regular stickers and 125 and 20 for the seniors. That actually produces additional revenue of about $500 on the total thing. And that's close enough to Andrew's. I'm fine with Andrew there. I thought seniors might pay a little more and the extra stickers be a little bit less. But we wound up with very close to $100,000. So I think
yours is 320, 20, 125, and 20.
correct.
Just say that again, slow. So
320 for the regular stickers and 20 for additional stickers.
yeah.
For seniors, 125 and 20 for additional stickers.
So this is, we're going to call this option 5.
Yeah, but it's very close to option 4 here. And again, the revenue difference is about $500 now.
What's the total of that? The revenue?
612, 120.
Okay, so it's basically the same thing, but just
Oh, yeah.
allocated differently, right?
Totally independently produced, so it must be right.
Of course. Okay, and on Cycle we have 2 seniors and 3 non-seniors, so we've got a good mix of people here. Okay, Tim, now go.
Okay, so step 1, we have a 6-month expense that we have to eat in this year's budget. So theoretically, next year, we don't have that same expense.
That's right.
So, but a capital idea comes into mind too, because you're talking about CDLA with an endorsement of a manual transmission. So would we ever replace that truck with an automatic, which would be easier to get somebody from a school, or is that not a consideration that, I know it doesn't have any bearing in this.
It's not that old. The cost of that truck would be significant, but I mean, that's something we wouldn't plan to do when it's due to be swapped out.
Okay, because that would open up the pool of people out of CDL school. So we would get a lot more opportunity. So that was my first piece. The second piece is, I don't see in any world that we could increase the senior rate from 50 to 120 or 100 or $150, any of these numbers. So I have option 6 that I was thinking about, where the senior fee would go up to 60. Which would make us have to make up the difference, and the non-senior fee would go to 340. If my math is right, which somebody can double check it, but that's a delta of 116. I also think that as a town, we haven't increased the $100,000 number across inflation. So as our usage has gone up, I think the town's usage should be something we consider going up at the same time, because it hasn't been the same for 5-6 years.
Well, if you take the 710 times 20%, then you get 140,000 as far as what the town's share should be.
Yeah, so if that would be the case, then we'd still keep, I mean, I have a live document of what I have here. We could do 325, a non-senior, 60 for a senior, and 25 for second vehicles.
Okay, hold on. You said 340. You're changing that to 325 now?
Yeah, because if we're going to do 140 as a delta, that would be the increase, which I'm okay with. 325 is a reasonable increase. It's 10% increase on a non-senior resident.
Okay, what are your for the second stickers?
25. So 325 for the non-senior first, 25 for the non-senior second, 60 for the senior first, 25 for the senior
So
second.
the way this is going, we're going to have 5 different votes here. AD,
All right.
just so you know, I'm sticking with one of the original options from Bill, so I'm
I was
I'm not
too,
doing
so-
option 7.
my preference was going to be for option 3. And I know that has the most significant increase in the senior permit, right? So that would be controversial, right? And liable to generate complaints, but so of the total permits, more than a third of the permits are senior permits, right? So it's not a insubstantial amount.
Nope.
There are, I think, plenty of people who use the transfer station who are over 65 years old who can afford $150 for a sticker. And as for, as you mentioned, for people who have a genuine financial need to pay less, we already have a system for that. So I see there's 50 people who got waived. I mean, we would maybe want to increase that number. Right? We want to let people know that there is financial assistance available if you truly have a hard time affording that, to make it easier for you to have that fee waived. But I know that it was only a couple of years ago, right? We had, was it 0?
It was.
Okay.
We've had a senior rate for, I mean, I was definitely select board because Cindy Foster came that night. So this is probably the 4th year we've had a senior cost, I believe. Could be 3rd, but I think it's 4th.
So what we're trying to do is to close what this, the expenses that you projected are going up more than 100,000, right? But so of that, the biggest item is the 62,000 for the contracted hauler to wheelabrator.
Right.
But your memo says that you are trying to train to have a staff member do that.
We currently have two staff members being trained on that piece.
So do you think that might get done in the next fiscal year? So that is the 62,000 you have in there, is that for the entire year?
That's for 6 months.
Or for
that's
6
what we're
months.
Projecting.
Okay.
timeframe being.
All right, well, that's what my,
So you're still sticking with option 3?
yeah, I mean, I
That's
thought,
fine. I'm just trying to confirm.
okay, I mean, option 1, that's no increase. As much as it would be a nice thing to do to have no increase, it makes the $100,000 subsidy $200,000. So
Does, and it falls on
the higher that number, that's just money we need to make up for the
That's right.
rest
So,
of
so
the budget
people who
cycle.
don't use the transfer station have to pay it.
Well, the town has to pay it. Yes, people that don't use a transfer station, but specifically it's a town expense, so the town pays for it.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, we know that there's going to be a challenging budget cycle. This is just, it puts more pressure on the tax rate to fund transfer station operations because you're easing up on the fees.
All right, Andrew, you added option 4, so I assume that's your option.
Except I didn't want to increase the, I just asked for the $100 for the seniors to split the difference between the 75 and the 150. The other, I actually compared them to Wayland, which is probably our closest competitor in terms of how they operate their transfer station. Their second permit is 50 and then the third permit's 40. So the one question is whether or not do we want to shift some of the costs from the first permit to the second?
Well, I'm not sure. Wayland is a great example, given the troubles they've had with their transfer station, which were well documented in a recent study. But anyway, so you want to change the 25 to what?
The 25 to 40.
And senior, same thing?
So seniors, same 125. And
Okay,
then
hold on. So you want to go 330,
310.
3.
I
I
want
thought you, okay, so you don't want to go 330, you want 310?
I could go 3. I wanted to keep it at 300, but I could do 310 or 300.
Okay, well, pick one.
Do you think,
300.
Okay,
one thing that could be
300.
helpful, Kathy, if, this is just a suggestion that something that might make it helpful, is if, could you share someone that's doing these calculations, if you could share the screen?
Sure. I
Then
can
we can,
log into the Zoom and do that.
Okay, but Andrew, you want 300, 40, 125?
Yes.
Okay.
That comes to 125, 925.
Okay, so while he's doing that, I'll tell you, I'm going to support until someone convinces me otherwise, option 2. I don't want to increase the seniors more than the $25. That's still a 50% increase. In absolute dollars, it's not that big. Percentage wise, it is. I believe the seniors deserve a substantial discount, not because they're seniors, but because they have less trash, period. The seniors in this town actually like the transfer station probably a lot more than younger families. They use it more. So I do want to I still want to continue to give them a significant break on the cost of this. But I do think it should go to 75. And the reason I also picked that, I like the 132 because I think that's the right number we should have as far as what goes into the general fund coverage, because I'd multiply the 700 by 20%, I get 140. So I think that's the right number. Knowing though that 62 is going to hopefully come out for the next year. That would also take the main sticker from 295 to 320, which is still a 9% increase, which is a lot. So 9% for that one, and then 50% for the seniors is about as much as I can stomach here, I think, as far as increases go. Okay, are you ready to pop it up?
Stop that.
So we now have
7.
6 choices.
Well, option 2, I can live with option 2.
All right, so we got 2 votes for option 2. We got 1 vote for option 5, 1 vote for option 6, and 1 vote for option 4.
I mean, option 2 is pretty close to what I was proposing, except for the second one.
So do you rather have 40 for the second?
Yeah, I think the only question is whether, if people don't think that 40 for the second, then I think option 2 is. I think that everybody care about the second one being more expensive. And
I mean, so it looks like we're heading toward maybe option 2. We got 3 for option 2.
I could support option 2. And what do you want to do with option 2, second sticker, Andrew?
No, it was just, original thought was in looking at other towns, 25 for a second sticker was a little bit lower than other comparable towns. So whether or not we wanted to raise the second one and shift some of the costs from the first one to the second one, or just leave it as is, I just proposing the question. If nobody wants to do it, then I think option 2. If we want to do it, maybe we switch it.
Better with the second sticker being the same cost for both seniors and others administratively. So I could go with that option 2.
Okay, so we got 4 out of 5. Tim?
And my only question is going from 50 to 75. I mean, that's a percentage-wise a pretty large jump for seniors. I mean, it doesn't make me warm and fuzzy to do that. I'd rather make it 60 for the first one. But I mean,
I talk to a lot of seniors who say, I can afford it. I don't see why I'm getting.
They do. I've never heard a senior complaint other than one that's come to public meetings. But every other one I've talked to, and it's been quite a few, have said, I don't even think they should get a discount. Right?
Of the people we know that would apply for financial aid, would they get it if they needed it through our program today?
Yeah.
If we raise this to 75?
Yes.
And Bill, you
Yes.
said previously that you have a very generous policy. There used to be, you had to
As long as,
jump through hoops to get a waiver. But
as long as,
currently, not
Goes
so
through the
much.
select board office.
as long as the opportunity is there and available and we publicize it when we do the rate increase,
We do.
then I could get behind supporting option 2 because it is the closest to what I presented, but I still think the jump is substantial.
Okay, well, we've got agreement. Andrew, if you want to make a motion?
I move that we approve option 2, which is, and I'll make sure we do this so we have the right numbers. $320 for the first permit for non-seniors, $25 for the second plus permit for non-seniors, $75 for the first permit for seniors, $25 for the second plus permits for seniors. And waive to 0.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, done.
Thank you.
Okay,
See you next month.
thank you, everybody.
See you next year.
Okay,
Next month, right.
moving on, Bill is part of the next one too. So we're going to talk about the status of the connection, the water connection with Hopkinton. Mr. Butler, come on up. So I'll jump real quick and then turn it right over to you guys. So just to refresh everyone's memory, we've been working on this for over 3 years. John and I got in front of town meeting at the 2023 annual town meeting and made a lovely presentation that was well received. We didn't have to do it, but we thought it was the right thing to do because it was such a big deal. So we did it. The then DPW head of Hopkinton came and spoke, and we got a pretty good vote. We didn't have clickers back then. I don't remember what it was, but it was overwhelming positive. And so we thought we were off to the races.
The tortoise.
Yes, and here we are. But things just kind of, so we got pretty far with a draft IMA. John did a whole lot of work. And this was before Bill. So Karen's still the DPW superintendent. We got a whole lot of work done as far as how to invoice Hopkinton for the cost of delivering the water to them, electricity, et cetera. And then they had a lot of turnover in Hopkinton. They, town managers, select board, DPW superintendent. So it just, we kept having meetings, but nothing happened. We'd have all these people would get together in my office and leave, and then we wouldn't hear from them for a long time. They also changed town council. They now have Jay Tellerman as their town council too. So that changed. So like everything that could change, changed. But we talked to them. They said, oh no, we're still interested. We're still interested. We'd see articles about how this was their number one priority. But yet you wouldn't know it by their actions, put it this way. The words, they said one thing and they didn't do a lot to do it. When Bill was first hired, I remember being in Mark's office and he took a look at this. He goes, why would anybody not do this? This is kind of a win-win for both towns. So that was kind of his first take on the whole thing. So recently they have gotten engaged again. So we've had, I think, finally a productive meeting. Bill and John are back to the races on the IMA. So the status, I'm going to let them talk about, but it does seem to be that it's going.
Noise
I'm
that's.
too close to it. Okay, sorry. Well, now it doesn't feel like it's picking it up. It's picking it up. Okay. All right. So it looks like they really are sincerely interested. I'll let you and you agree or not with that statement. But I do think things are starting to move pretty fast. So therefore, we thought it was time to give the select board an update on what we know at this point. And then specifically, select board needs to vote on the following tonight. Jay Tellerman's office is now town council for Hopkinton too, so they can't represent both of us if we want something significant done as far as the contract, which we do. So Jay is agreed to help us recommend special town council tonight. We need to take a vote to agree that we need to appoint special town council to represent our town as far as getting this IMA to fruition. All right. So Bill, you want to start?
Basically, it's really, I haven't had a lot of exposure to this early on. We had some discussions. Most recently, my counterpart in Hopkinton has been working with PAR, which is our water consultant as well. And they're about 30% done with the design. Things are moving more recently because I think Hopkinton is recognizing that financial analysis proves that it doesn't make financial sense for them to continue with a temporary treatment system, which is what they currently have. So I think they're starting to feel a little pressure to move this along, which is, clearly Southborough's advantage from that perspective. Now, given that, I know John's done a lot of work on drafting an IMA. It's evolved over the 3 years I've been here with the town. And I'll let John talk about that after I'm done. But generally speaking, I still continue to think that it's a good thing for the town of Southborough, for the water department and the users in the water system. So I think it would be a net benefit for the town.
Okay, so my role in this is basically because we have a complex engineering situation with the water system itself. And when I was on advisory committee a long time ago, I sort of had done a deep dive on the water system, both its economics and operations. And so when this came up, I volunteered because I was knowledgeable about that. And my job in this is to translate the technology and the economics into a business arrangement. And I have a fair amount of experience doing that outside of the water domain privately in the past. So that's what I've been doing. But we do need legal representation. I'm not an attorney. And furthermore, the governing statutes for IMA is not something that I historically have operated with, and so I think we need, it's a big deal. It's a lot of money, and we need our own representation. So I would begin with, that's our principal purpose in gathering here. I'll just review a few aspects of this. I know many of you will remember it from the 3.5 years ago when we were actively dealing with it. But the basics are that the MWRA is going to sell the water to Hopkinton. We are not selling the water. We are delivering the water. So, in a crude analogy, MWRA is Walmart, we're UPS. We're delivering the water. But we have to maintain a system for delivering the water and its adequacy. Hopkinton is going to pay all of the costs, both the ongoing cost of delivering the water, the ongoing cost of maintaining the capacity to meet their full need, even if they don't take all that water that is built for, and also all of the costs of expanding our system to meet their capacity needs. In addition, Hopkinton, under the draft agreement, which we reaffirmed the major terms of this when the three of us, Ms. Cook and Bill and I, met with Hopkinton in June, we reaffirmed all the basic terms that we had agreed to in December of 22. And those included a $1 million payment to Southborough for water projects that are Southborough specific, and which is compensation for needing to open up some of our roads and other sorts of inconveniences that the town, as well as costs that we have of doing this. The status today is that the IMA essentially stalled in its progress in roughly May of 2023. So a little over 3 years ago. The substantive negotiations to reach basic agreement were in December of 22. And then we went to town meeting in April of 23, got approval, and essentially it stopped a few months after that. Peculiarly, Hopkinton has continued to spend a large amount of money on engineering a system to connect to Southborough without the IMA being in place. So they've spent, I think, about $600,000 on engineering to get it to the 30% point of design that it is today, while the IMA has been static. And there have been really no substantive conversations. So last month they came to us. So I suppose in the way of convincing evidence that they're serious is they've continued to spend a lot of money on this. And now PAR Engineering, where the money has been spent with PAR, has said, we don't want to do any more work on this until a peer review begins. The peer review is Southborough hires another water engineering firm who basically looks over the plans and says, yes, this looks like it will work, or otherwise, says it's got problems. So PAR, reasonably enough, doesn't want to spend all of the design, get through all of the design process, and then have someone look it over and say, wait a minute, way back at step 2, you should have done something different. So PAR has basically said to Hopkinton, you have to get the design review process going. But the design review process, since we are hiring the design review engineering firm, is gated on the IMA. So the IMA has to get done for the design review to happen, because we are the sole hirers of the design review engineering firm, because they have to report to us to assure us that the system is.
So I know it's probably self-evident, but that's a different firm than
Yes,
PAR. Okay.
yes, it has to be a different firm. That's right. So the current IMA includes most of the major. Where we got to is that most of the major terms are there, but it needs what I call technical reaffirmation. That is, it's been sitting dormant for 3.5 years, and Bill wasn't here when we did it. So and I've worked heavily with PAR during the beginning process of this to be sure that the economics, the translation of the costs, water operational costs to economics made sense. PAR's VP and myself both agreed that we had a sensible structure, but this is before Bill was on board. So we need to redo that work. We need a complete legal review. The draft began, perhaps erroneously, it began in the first place with Hopkinton's general counsel, town council creating a first draft. That was very rough because this was basically in February of 23. It was very rough because Hopkinton's general counsel assumed that we were selling the water. And that, of course, got it off on the wrong foot right from the get-go. So it had to be torqued a fair amount to get it into shape. And now, so the legal aspect of its review essentially stopped in June of 23, and it needs a complete top to bottom review of a law firm who is knowledgeable about case law with regard to IMAs, in case any of this comes up for dispute at some later time. And then if we get those two things done, Bill and I and Par sit down and go through the whole connection between the technology of the system and its incorporation into the contract, and we're all agreed on that. And then the legal review gets done. Then we're in a position to send that draft to Hopkinton, and that would incorporate the terms that we've described. So so just to summarize the next steps after so then we should come back after we get those steps done, go to Hopkinton, have presumably some negotiation about the terms of the IMA. Come back here with an IMA that's ready to be signed. And the three of us will continue working on that. Once the IMA gets signed, just to give you an insight into what would follow, we need to hire the water engineering firm. We pay for the peer review, we pay them. Then eventually as that goes on, Hopkinton reimburses us for those costs. So we're the contracting party with the peer review firm, but ultimately our costs are paid back.
And town meeting already approved the expenditure for
The
that.
town
period.
has, yes, and the money has been sitting in a warrant article. It's water fund. It's not tax fund. It's water fund, but it's been sitting there. In fact, we discussed several times, well, look, we should just get rid of this.
But we threatened to do that to try to get them moving, but
We didn't do that. I mean, it would take a town meeting action to put the money back into general availability, but never happened. Fortunately, it never happened. I guess
Is there any concern that since the money was appropriated 3 years ago, that the actual cost of the peer
Yes.
review will cost more now?
There is some concern about that, and I guess, we might need to ask for some more money. It won't be right at the beginning. Is that fair?
Well, obviously, we get a proposal, we have some idea of what the cost may be. Give us an indication as to whether that's appropriate. And then after they get into the weeds of the thing, we'll know a little better if it's going to be a lot more or a little.
The background on it is that, of course, the early estimates were $100,000 from Ms. Galligan originally. And then we said, well, it might be a little more. And I bumped it to 200,000 before we went to town meeting. So there's 200,000 we appropriated. But now the PAR estimates for the total, and generally peer reviews are a fraction. There's some, I like it 10% or some are pushing to 2 million. So we could be getting tight or go over the 200, which we've appropriated. We get all the money back, but it could need an action, but it's too soon to know for sure whether we're going to cruise past the 200,000.
John, do we get reimbursed for the outside counsel expense?
It's never been built into it explicitly. It's an interesting question.
because we didn't know we needed it back then. We had.
Well, so-
Right, yeah.
Why do we, so if Mead Tallerman Costa represents both, we hired Mead Tallerman Costa first. Why do we have to?
Yeah, why isn't he inside for us? Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't they get special counsel?
Well, we don't know what I guess you spoke to Jay. Why don't you speak?
He said, Andrew, you're the attorney on this board. He said that he could still represent both towns if we really, it was all done, it's ready to go. It's nothing much to do. We all agreed on everything. And I said, well, I don't think that's the case. We'd already talked and we knew we wanted to have really good, strong liability language in here in case something goes wrong when the water gets turned on. So we knew that wouldn't be the case. There really did need to be some very strong language put into that. So we knew that he couldn't represent both. And he said, well, if I can't represent both, I can't represent either. That was what Jay said. Now, don't ask me why, but that's what he said.
Yeah. So I took that as,
All right, gotcha.
yeah. But to Sam's point, this is a bridge we hadn't planned on needing to cross specifically. There was a point at which we thought about whether we needed an administration fee associated with that needed to be reimbursed. And at that time, we discussed it, and it didn't look like we were going to have any council expenses, and we figured, well, the rest of the deal made sense. We'd absorb it. I think it's up to you.
But it doesn't mean we can't put it in now. It's, we could add that as
We could.
a reimbursable
Yeah, we
cost.
Doesn't hurt to ask.
The whole, I would say, Bill and I have not been through the details of this because I last went through the details with Karen, but we wanted to get through this, and that's something that needs to be done. But we absolutely could put that in as an ask. We need you to pay. We needed to pay our special counsel fees if you want to do that.
I don't see why we wouldn't.
So, that doesn't need to be we can put that in. Ultimately, a negotiated document is going to come back to you and for approval.
Kathy, can I ask some
Of course.
questions? Now, some of these are not directly, they're more about the action program rather than the IMA, but so this would involve some work where roads would need to be dug up, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
and then, Bill, have you started to think about how that works with the pavement management plan?
We have.
Okay, good.
Yes. So there are roads that are coincident with one and the other. And we would basically, now that we're moving again, for a period of time when we're doing the road management plan, we put those roads in the plan because they need to get done. However, things were not really moving forward at the time. So now that we see a little movement, we're probably going to jockey that list around.
All right.
And I'll come back to the board.
Because then Hopkinton would pay for the repaving.
Hopkinton is, one of the parts of the things that we have verbally discussed and was, in the drafts that are circulated is curb to curb repavement payments. We do it, they pay.
Even if they dig up one side of the road, the whole thing had to be done.
Yeah.
And Bill, I think when we reviewed it, it was like year 3 or 4 and your strategy was in there. So we have a little bit of time.
Yep. It's going to go quick.
So, by the way, the other aspect I should mention is that they do not have state approvals yet.
From the MWRA?
Well, they need several. They need MWRA, they need the DEP. The state's in a funny position, which is one agency moves hundreds of millions of gallons a day from one river basin to another, and the other opposes that.
So it's not the MWA they're really worried about. It's the DEP.
DEP is the challenging one. MWRA is already moving the water.
They want to sell more water, so they're happy.
MWA is talking about that already being a done deal in terms of moving the water. I listened to their internal.
Yeah, but they don't have it. But my only point is that it takes time, and that will be a necessary step.
Right.
Before anything like roads get open. The other thing, so once we get the IMA in place, PAR we can identify a engineering firm to do peer review. They'll start working with PAR. We need to meet with Oak Hill Road neighbors and let's talk about the need for a taller water tank there. The 1930s tank would in the plan would be demolished and a taller one erected in its place on the same ground. And then that will need ZBA approval. So meet with the neighbors and then meet with ZBA. Meanwhile, Hopkinton can keep going. They have been going on their state approvals process, but it takes years.
Was this also, this is coming back to me after 3 years.
To all of us.
So, well, is also one of the improvements that would happen is the elimination of the 2-zone system?
Yes.
One zone.
Right now there's 2 different pressure zones.
That's right.
That's right.
That'll be eliminated.
And that's a delicate issue, but yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we
Get rid of one water tank, right? Or keep both?
No.
No.
We're going to do the Oak Hill.
So yes to that or no to that? We were going to get rid of the one on Overlook. So that's not the case?
I don't believe so.
Oh, well, it wasn't. So I haven't looked at the PAR plan since 23.
Yeah.
And so it did include eliminating the Overlook tank. I have not been advised of major changes, but that's something we have to we have to do is we have to go sit back down with PAR and say, okay, you've been working on this for 3 years. What have you changed? I haven't been advised anything major is going to crawl out of the woodwork on that, but I suspect they're still planning on shutting down the vote. But I don't know.
All right, so there's your overview. Any more questions for either? Remember too, I mean, this is a interesting fact. So Karen Gallagher resigned in January of 23. Remember that meeting? And then, so we had no DPW superintendent until Bill started in July of 23. So there was a almost 7-month period that so it's John and I trying to keep the same.
The PAR, I would say the background to this is that I think most of us who work with PAR think highly of them.
Yeah, and remember that they're working for both towns. That's why we need the peer review, because they are employed by both towns. So there is a conflict there.
Bill, one of the other things we've talked about is smart meters. Does that need to be brought up in this conversation, or do you think that's fundamentally?
No, that's a separate issue. We are doing an independent evaluation on smart meters townwide, and haven't gotten a contract with PAR yet, but we're working on it. So
Okay, I didn't know if the work that is involved in this project would affect that. So having it all known about, obviously, you know about it, having
from the aspect of unaccounted water, interestingly, while our percentage of unaccounted water would go down, it's likely that the volume would go up. So think about that, but because we're taking more water through our system, that boils down to. So we'll look better, but it'll actually be worse.
And so for the terms of the IMA, I'm just trying to remember.
Yeah.
So we are Hopkinton buys the water from the MWRA.
Correct.
And we do the work of helping to push it,
Right.
pump it to them.
Right.
And then so they pay us for that. Right. And the agreement has some way of figuring out like what's the percentage
What's it cost?
fixed cost. So does it work that we provide the pumping service and then bill them? And then, or is it that there's some upfront payment that is
so there is not an upfront. It is the case that we provide the pumping service and then bill them.
if they don't pay, we could just.
No, they have to pay. I mean, as you may be aware, the terms of an IMA are not subject to appropriation by either community. So the town meeting can't even vote down, Hopkins town meeting could decide not to pay this. Okay, it has to get paid. But there are several categories of charges, but one of them is our overhead. Our fraction of our overhead is to be paid as well, and that presumably covers some aspect of time value of money because we bill quarterly. But there are two aspects of the charges. One is fees that are the charges that are in fact indexed by the amount of water that they actually take. So the obvious one is electricity. We have to pump the water, electric pumps, we have to pay the electric company. And so that's an obvious one that tracks, but there are others that track the amount of water that they actually take. But if they took no water, there would still be a charge because we have an obligation under the contract to maintain the capacity to deliver water to them. And that capacity maintenance costs us money. And so we charge them for that.
It's like a 25-year contract.
So 25 years, conceived to be a 25-year agreement. One of the aspects of the terms in the current draft that need legal review is the renewal terms as well as early cancellation. I think right now the draft is a bit of a mess in that area, and we need to work with council on it.
Okay, thank you.
Sam, Tim, AP. So John, thank you for all this work that you're doing. It's totally appreciated. And Bill, I'm glad you're here to give the steady hand to see this to fruition. I just hope that I'm still here when we get it done. I want to get this done. Okay, so thank you guys.
All right.
Thank you.
John, if you want to hang around, we're going to talk about something that's probably pretty near and dear to your heart. So you're welcome to hang around. We're going to talk about the budget process for next year. We think we're looking at override. So Want to hang around? That'd be great. Okay, I'm going to move up item 6B to now, because Mr. Butler's here and because Mr. Hamilton's here. I was going to say this under my chair's report, but since we're doing this first, I'll go ahead and say it. So I was in Mark's office yesterday, and I didn't know this, but Al has agreed to go back on advisory. And I said I was thrilled to death, and am thrilled to death. Went home totally thrilled to death with all the things that we're facing as far as budget. I think that it's great that he's agreed to do that. And in fact, left a big hole in advisory, so I feel so much better about advisory with Al there. He's got to get sworn in. Don't forget. Okay. But I called him and said, we're going to talk about this tonight. You know, he's not advisory officially yet, but I thought he might be interested in this discussion. And if they wanted to weigh in, they'd be welcome to weigh in. Okay, so to kind of tee this up, we all know that we actually thought we were going to have an override for fiscal 27. It turns out we didn't. We ended up being $500,000 of in good with levy capacity after doing the budget work we always do. So we ended up okay for fiscal year 27, but we knew that fiscal year 28 was most likely, with absent something unusual happening that we don't think is going to happen. We knew we were going to have a problem in fiscal year 28. So Brian has done a preliminary projection of 28, 29, 30, 31, and 32. And I'll explain why I did the 5 years in a second to show what the budget looks like using certain assumptions. And I'm not going to show anybody this yet because we still got to work on it and make sure it's ready for prime time. But it's still a good place to start a discussion because I think the big picture is still represented here. So to start this, Brian and I met and Mark with Andrew Nelson. Andrew Nelson has worked for the DOR 25 years, something like that. He used to be one of the people who's had had so many towns under his purview. He's now one of the 3 people that have all the towns under his purview. He's got like 111 towns, but he also asked to keep 11 towns specifically where he would do the detail work, and we're one of those. So he's well acquainted with Southborough. He lives in Shrewsbury. Seems to be a really knowledgeable person. So I met with him to understand, kind of what the best practices are for overrides, et cetera. And he was, to say the least, most helpful. So in trying to make a long story short, what he's recommending, if we really are going to face this override, right now it looks like it's about $2 million for fiscal year 28. Then he believes the best way to do it is to not specifically ask for an override for anything specific, schools, DPW, fire, whatever, but to ask for an operational override of X amount of dollars that covers what we think we need for the next 5 years. Because he said, if you start getting the habit of asking for an override every year, you're going to start running into problems, and people just get tired of those and they don't understand, it doesn't make sense to them why you have to keep asking for an override vote. I can't remember the last time we had an override vote here, but I was here when we did it. I remember one failed and the next one passed. So we haven't had one in a long, long time. But we're there. So he's recommending looking at 5 years and asking for that amount of money as far as approving excess levy capacity to then have approved, so that for the next 5 years after that, assuming things go as budgeted, at least close to them, we wouldn't have to have an override vote every year for the next 5 years. You would have to have another one after 5 years, but you wouldn't have to do one every single year. Now, before Mr. Butler and Mr. Hamilton go, oh my God, $10 million. There's 2 ways to do this. Well, going back to your stabilization policy, you don't need to raise the taxes that you approve here. Some towns have done that and just set the money aside, stuck it in a stabilization account, but you don't do that. You just have the levy capacity approved and then you've got it. So you still raise taxes like you normally do for what you need for the next year. Based on the budget Brian's put together, I think we're looking at roughly without any changes, and I'll tell you what the assumptions are in a second, about a 5% year-over-year increase for the next 5 years as far as the average real estate tax bill, as long as the property values, the split stays the same, which of course it won't. It'll change a little bit, but you got to assume something. So my recommendation would be to not raise an extra $10 million of taxes the first year, but raise what you need, but get the levy capacity approved so that every year you don't have to go back for another override vote. Because remember, you can only go up 2.5%. Our new growth is not that much. And so if your expenses increase 4 and 5%, you're going to have an override vote every year if you're at a levy capacity, which we are right now. So that's kind of the big picture. So tonight, what I was trying to do is get everybody's take on what they think the process should be that we talk about in detail at the August 11th meeting, where we will set the budget process for the year and try and start the process early because we're going to need to. He said the one thing you got to do is make sure that you have many meetings to explain this, because the average person is not going to understand when we ask for $10 million what that means, right? They're going to think, oh my gosh, my taxes are going to go up by a huge amount if you're asking for $10 million. We've got to explain this to people if we expect you to pass. You need a 2/3 vote to do this, and you need 2 votes. Town meeting's got to approve it, then you got to have it approved at the ballot. So it's a heavy lift to get this done. He lives in Holden, and he said Holden recently did this and it passed. They did it the way that I just described. There's some he's made some suggestions about how to explain it to people, which we'll talk about on August 11th, but he did say it passed by flying colors. I know 75-80% passed it. So there are examples of successful override discussions and votes that we can look at, but that was his very clear suggestion about how to approach this, assuming that we really do need to do this for fiscal year 28, which right now it looks like we do. Okay, so that's my explanation. Let me just tell you what assumptions have been used in this. And again, you'll see this soon once Brian, he's got, I think, a couple more things he's going to have to fix here. So we assume the new growth was about what it's been the last few years. It's not high. Based on past history as far as that goes, we assume the free cash each year was $2 million. We've had higher free cash last few years, but we assume $2 million to be conservative. We assume the local receipts, our excise taxes, our transfer stations, speaker fees, our building fees would go up 3.5% year over year for the next 5 years. We assume the money coming from the state, the local aid, would only go up 2%, which is about what it's been going up the last few years. That doesn't even keep up with inflation. We assume, and this is an important one, that the operational budgets would go up 5% year over year. I know Andrew Pfaff thinks that's the right number to use for budget increases as a general rule. So we use 5. We can change it. We can look at 4. We can look at 3. We can look at 6, but we use 5 for the moment. Benefits, of course, is what kills us every year. So we're assuming 8% as far as that goes. And that's your health insurance. That's your retirement. That is workman's comp, et cetera. We assumed capital. This was important. $1.5 million every year, increasing to $1.6 million the last 2 years in this projection. We did assume the benefit of the new rec as far as the cost going down for a couple of years. So he's got that in there, 50% in fiscal year 28, because we think we're going to be operational 1/1/28, right? Then he's got the fee that we're going to have to pay in the last couple of years. He put exempt debt in here, including something for NERI, but of course that's not going to matter. That automatically increases your levy capacity. So that's not what we're talking about here. So that's just a number to be used to help gauge the impact on taxes. You will need that in there for that. Brian, anything else you want me to say as far as current assumptions that we've made? Okay. All right. So interrupt me if I say something wrong. Okay. So that's kind of the big picture here.
Can you just reiterate what you said about NERI right there? The NERI debt would be.
NERI debt is most likely, whatever it is, whatever we end up doing as far as NERI school, is probably going to be exempt debt. So it's going to automatically add to the levy capacity.
I mean, here's another way that I'm thinking about this, is that what you're describing is something that's just running parallel with and is separate from the whole NERI, in that even if you did nothing with NERI, right, you would still need to have, unless you wanted to have very significant cuts, you would have operational.
Yeah, NERI has nothing to do with this number.
Okay,
so yes, this is exclusive of the impact of NERI.
Yeah. So just thinking about like the challenge for this year, there's the NERI override vote, because that would pass town meeting.
Well, that's not an override vote technically. That is a
Right,
debt
but
exclusion
it
vote.
would be you need to pass 2/3 town meeting and then
Ballot.
have a ballot question excluded debt. and then you also have this process.
That is a correct statement, Andrew. You could have both on the same ballot for sure.
All right.
You might have two different town meetings to vote. You might have a special for the NERI and annual for the budget, but you definitely could have both things on the same ballot for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So we got our work cut out for us. Okay. Everybody looks a little stunned here. Anybody have any reaction to what I said?
My one, if I could start, my one reaction is with the NERI debt in mind, a 5% tax bill increase excluding debt, which that's going to affect it even more, increases an average house 21% over those 5 years in taxes. So then when you put the debt on top of it, it's even higher. So it's a huge starting point if all of it would come forward.
Yeah, and that's not written in stone, Tim. I do that real quick in my head as far as that. So don't take that to the bank yet till we really sit down, because Brian hasn't done the increase, the impact on residential tax bills at this point. I just did it real quick because it's not actually not that hard to do. So I don't know that. I haven't really sat down and played with that, but we can play with that. I think inviting Andrew Nelson to our next meeting might be a productive thing to do, assuming he agrees to do things like that, and let you guys hear from him directly and ask questions. He really is very articulate and certainly knowledgeable as far as how to do this.
Kathy,
Yes.
quick comment, as at least a couple of you may know, I'm our designee to the Metro West Regional Collaborative, which is part of the Metropolitan Area Planning Council. And at our last month's meeting, there was a conversation in the Metro West group about strategies for an override. And the overwhelming majority is very interested or doing this one big number versus year by year kind of approach. So apparently that has got some traction in the Metro West area. Not that it's a guaranteed approach, but people seem to be pretty interested in doing it that way from a practical standpoint. So for what that's worth.
One thing to remind everybody, a lot of towns do have big stabilization funds or other types of reserves that we don't. The most recent S&P 500 or S&P review of town finances had a warning in there for us that, we start losing our levy capacity, which they didn't realize. I don't think they looked at fiscal year 27 when they did this. We still had plenty when they looked at it, would be a flag for them. So if we were to do this, this would restore that levy capacity and I think bolster that, help our rating as far as that goes. So they weren't looking at that levy capacity as a reserve. Some people don't. I think Andrew Nelson was a little surprised that they did, but they clearly said they did. So that's one thing to consider too, as far as how to do this. It would get that number back up. So they would see that levy capacity as being, substantial again for at least, 3 or 4 years. So there's that too. Tim, anything else?
I mean, as we go through this, we're gonna have to look at things, but making sure we have 2 or 3 options on the table. So if we did a 1 year, a 5 year, just as long as we go through this process with more than one option, that it's clear when we're done. I mean, we're gonna have to go through the process, but let's just not pick only one from the beginning. Let's make sure we do the math in more than one way.
Okay, so the other part that we talked about is how to bring the actual budget to town meeting. And he suggested you basically bring 2 budgets. You bring as the first budget to vote on, let's call it the override budget. So call it a level services budget. This is what we need to be able to pass to fund this budget and see what the vote is. If that one passes, then you're done. If that doesn't pass, you go to the next budget where you really have cut a lot of stuff to be able to either get rid of the override or to substantially reduce it. So you start with the budget you would prefer to have passed as far as the first article, see what the vote is on that, and then that determines whether the second one is voted on or not. So he did say he would recommend bringing 2 budgets forward.
So to that point, then I would say as we go through this, I'm super supportive of every department head bringing 2 different budgets, at least 2 budgets to us as we go through the process of the budget season, where one would be.
So we're going to get into that detail, Tim, on August 11th, as far as the budget process. Tonight, I'm just trying to see what your appetite is for the override process, where we actually ask for 5 years of what we think we need for levy capacity.
Yeah, I mean, so to that particular point, 1 and 5 or 1, 3, and 5, like a range is how I would want to see it.
Well, the reason he says you do 5 is because if you start doing every year overrides, then they start failing. So you have a much better chance if you do the one big one and you're done for 5 years. So that's why he's saying go 5 and don't go year by year.
No, I understand that. I still want to keep, I guess, the choker a little bit tighter as we go through this, so the town meeting has control of the process. So it might fail, but I think we need to keep the one, but we need to look at more than just a 5.
Well, but the option B that you're talking about is a no override.
Yeah, so the
So
vote,
it's already there.
you can't take more, when you go to vote, at that point, you got a number on the ballot saying we want to do an operational override for $10 million. There's no choices there. You came out of town meeting knowing what budget needs to be funded, and that leads to what the vote is at the ballot. So the ballot would be 10 million, 8 million. So right now we would need $10 million roughly, so it's 9 and change, to be able to cover 5 years of excess spending over revenue if we use these projections. So the ballot vote's different than what we can bring to town meeting.
No, I think the 5-year strategy is the way to go. I mean, even if we approve a 5-year, town meeting still has control of the purse string in terms of how much of that we actually spend going forward.
That's right, that's right.
And the numbers that are in here are in line with what advisory had in their letter in terms of, kind of the warnings to town meeting of what the override could look like. I think we had 2.6 in the letter, and it's roughly around that 2.4, 2.5. So it seems to be in line with expectations.
So, okay, that's fine, but do you also agree that we're not going to raise the taxes in the first year, that we would be able to raise with that? We're still going to do our year by year raise taxes to fund the next year's operations, right?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Do
So I
an
think that's, we
override
got to
where you
keep,
get
because
5 years worth of, and
Money
I
ahead of
spend it
time.
all in
It's-
1 year.
and some, he said, some towns do that, and they just park it in their
So
stabilization
then,
fund.
but then you would be looking for an override the next year, right?
No, take it as
You have to put it out,
Oh,
you put it
okay,
out
all right,
stabilization.
okay, all right.
But that would mean people would be paying those taxes that might not live there in 4 years or 5 years. So again, the matching principle of letting people, assessing taxes, letting people or asking people to pay for services they use would be much more in line with not raising the taxes first year, raising them year by year like we normally do for the next year's expenses. So I'm trying to get you to look at both.
Yeah,
things.
just
So-
like we always had. We've always had
Right.
excess capacity and we just eat away at it.
That's
And
right.
now we've eaten away where there's nothing left.
That's right.
We need to add more so that we can continue to eat away.
So the one other reaction to what you said, so while I understand it makes sense to the first budget isn't necessarily tied to you don't get into this is an override for this. To have people understanding, you do need to explain how the if there was no override and you cut, so you need to cut $2 million, right?
The last override
what
here,
the-
if I remember correct, was to fund schools because people think schools are very popular, so it's a good one to put out there, right? He said, don't do it that way. He said, just do it operational. And then what they did in Holden is different constituencies put signs in the yard saying, support the fire department, support the police department, support the schools, if that's what your thing was. So you still would talk about, supporting different departments, but the operational override language in the ballot would just say $10 million to support operations.
Oh, okay, I guess we're saying the same thing, but just
We are.
to, so that the first question from people is, why do we need $10 million extra? And there's no way of explaining that without explaining.
Your costs are going to go up 5% and we're only going to increase revenue we can only increase the taxes by 2.5% is your basic explanation. And that's about $2 million.
Without getting into what type of cuts. would
But
happen.
we may, we've been advised too that if you expect to be successful here, you need to show the town that you've done everything you can to tighten your belt first, that this was necessary. So that's why we're going to start this budget process early, because we're going to need
So
that.
this is- I see.
Advisory is going to have to be very involved in this all the way through.
Okay, I hope I'm not going on too long, but
You know,
when Al and I sat down with Jay Tallerman and we were, talking about government reform ideas, right? He mentioned that his view, like our warrant, in his view, is just way too many individual line items. You could have a present the budget in a way which drastically reduces the number of line items, right? So that's just something to think about. Now, that does give more power to the, I guess, select board administration to, you're given a line item and you can move it around in different ways, right? But where it makes it a little bit easier to try to get an overall lower spend number, I think, because rather than when you go analyzing each individual line item and you're hesitant to cut some of these, where some of these line items don't actually get spent each year in full consistently.
It's actually I believe it's town meeting's authority to determine the detail at which you do it.
Except that the select board prints them.
Yeah,
warrant,
I
right?
think town meeting can
Okay.
override that. I thought there was something, now if you remember the DLS. I'll have to look.
Okay, so remember, Andrew, too, the warrant, as we do it today, for not schools, but all the budgets only include 2 items per department, salaries and everything else, right? So we don't have all the detail in that warrant anyway, which, we've gotten into the discussion recently as far as, bottom line spending, which bottom line spending, which we know we can do. You don't need a vote for that. And then, of course, we've got the law that says you can move money around between departments the last 2 months, and then you've got the reserve fund. So you've got ways to change what the vote is anyway legally. So we can talk about it, but it's pretty squished anyway. You got salaries and you got expenses.
So I'm just thinking, this was an idea that was mentioned to us and never really went anywhere, but now would be a good time to start to talk about the pros and cons.
Yeah, but I don't know that, there's a lot of people that look at each budget and they get help because of the increase.
So like this would be, rather than having police department, fire department, rec, you could just have one.
On the override.
Public safety.
Yep. Yeah. You could. Okay, Mr. Hamilton, welcome.
Al Hamilton, 35 Pine Hill Road. Yeah, the conversation with Jay really suggested that the board should at least consider substantial consolidation of departmental budgets for the purpose of town meeting authorization, so that we might have I'm going to get, I'm no longer a select person, so I can get myself in as much trouble as I want to. You could, for example, have a public safety budget. You could have a
human services.
Human services. You could have a facilities and public works budget, and those would be the 3 big budgets, and that would provide the select board or whatever other executive was responsible, just as the schools, we don't vote on an Erie budget. We don't vote on a math budget. The school committee has broad authority to manage within theirs, far more so than the select board or the other elected executives. And so I think that is something that is worth serious consideration, because it will also provide more opportunity for consolidation, more opportunity for optimization of processes. And so I think that is something, today we have budgets that everybody knows are treated as untouchable. And because they're just they're small, but when you aggregate them together, they turn out to be quite a bit of money that's untouchable, and that's not right. If you're going to be talking about a Prop 2.5 override, and I'm going to give you a little advice here now, which is to say a Prop 2.5 levy capacity increase. That doesn't roll off the tongue as well, but it sounds a little better. I'm not sure I'm going to vote for it, by the way. Big surprise. But I think you do need to start really working to convince people that, every dollar is being carefully spent and every dollar is being efficiently spent. As I'm a little skeptical on that second point. Thank you.
Well, you're certainly going to have the ability to help influence this. Mr. Butler.
John Butler, 4 Davis Road. I hadn't come prepared to talk about this subject today. I'll comment on a few things. One is the notion of, the background assumption is we're heading into a difficult budgetary year, which may strain the electorate from a political viewpoint in ways that we've seen sometimes expressed before, as when we worked on the NERI, when there was the NERI, first NERI proposal. So I think some of those strains may show up again, although I agree with Al's point that that some change, and that apparently came from town council, that some consolidation would allow greater flexibility and savings. Town meeting, I would just raise the point that town meeting sometimes has a skepticism about change, and that that the time to do that might be when you don't have a lot of other difficult things to do, because I can see unjustified suspicion arising that something else going on here that town meeting doesn't like and presenting a problem. I think you should just think about that aspect of it. I don't know whether, although I think the underlying idea has merit, I do think that if suddenly the warrant looks very different and you're looking for an override and you're looking potentially for a debt exclusion for schools with a big tax impact of all those things, it might not be the time to be trying to change the structure that town meeting is accustomed to looking at. Just food for thought. The next thing I would raise is my vague recollection, is from a long time ago now, is that town meeting can pass contingent budgets contingent on an override. So just mechanically, to be clear about this, and maybe one of you knows is certain about this, that town meeting can pass an operational budget with a contingent amount if the override passes, and such that, because otherwise, if you pass an aggregate sum of budgets which are in excess of the levy capacity and the override fails, then you must come back to another town meeting and redo the budget process.
He said that, and he did point to, you got to June 30th to pass your budget, so you'd have to come back real quick with another town meeting as the other way to do it. So he said you could do that.
You can do either way.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing about doing the way in which a certain amount of of a number of budgets is subject to contingency with respect to the passage of the override is that that concretizes the meaning of the override with respect to a number of budgets. And so if you want to be able to explain what does it mean to pass this override or defeat the override, it means this for this department, this for this department. So it has some advantages in terms of people understanding what it means for the override, as opposed to being merely an abstract, we need this money. The last point that I would make, if you'll bear with me a moment, is maybe not what you want to hear, but my sense is that there has been an administrative defranchisement of the conceptualized power of town meeting. That is, town meeting doesn't know how to reduce budgets if they wanted to, because they don't have choices presented. That would be lower. If town meeting wanted to have a no tax increase budget, it doesn't. When people arrive at town meeting, they don't know how to do that. And they don't know how to do it at all administratively, but they also don't know how to do it well. How should these cuts be made? Mr. Fling and I had a conversation about this quite a long time before he was on this board. And I'll also say that some of you remember, I'm sure Mr. Hamilton does, maybe Ms. Cook, that back about 15 years ago when I was on advisory committee, I was sufficiently concerned about this that we generated some budgets, a set of budgets that was available to town meeting if they wanted to pass lower numbers, significantly lower numbers. It was strikingly unpopular, and that no one took up and did anything with this information that advisory committee provided at the time. And I imagine it might still be that, but nevertheless, my feeling is that we haven't had enough counterweight discussion about tax increases. While we've had pretty large tax increases for quite a while now, And generally ones which I personally would support. But I think that we haven't had the kind of vigorous debate about those in which there is a challenging party. And ideally, I think advisory committees should operate in this way. They're the situated entity in the government to operate with this role. I think it would be good if somebody, but advisory in particular, almost were to take an artificial position of, we want to know what a no tax increase budget would look like. And it might meet with 20 votes on town meeting floor, but I still feel as though the democratic process would be served and the community would be served if we had more of that competing points of view meeting coming before a town meeting with a real enfranchisement of the town meeting floor to make a choice. I think the choices would come out the way they have. And when we tried it 15 years ago, there was little or no uptake. But nevertheless, I think it's important that town meeting have real choices, and I think probably advisory's role is to offer those, even if individual members of advisory think, as I did when we did this some time ago, that they personally supported the higher budget. I think the presentation of a less tax increase budget is something that the electorate should have before it. So that's my thought.
So just to add to that, just to provide some facts. So yes, we did that. I can't remember any budget that's been cut in the last, call it 10 years, other than when Al proposed to cut the utility budget because of the increase with the new public safety building in 2021. And it passed. That's the only budget that I can remember being cut by anybody. In fact, there's been several budgets that have been increased by town meeting over the last few years. But if we do what we talked about a minute ago, which is have two budgets, that second budget would do exactly what you said. You'd have to cut people. You'd have to do a lot of things to get to a budget that wouldn't require an override. So that would do that.
Yes. I also, by the way, just perhaps this is was your opening question. You don't want to get in a situation which you're looking for an override every year. Just, so, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with that. Maybe it passes, maybe not, but if you have to go for an override every year, big trouble.
Agree. Okay. So very nice to see both of you guys here tonight with your many, many years of financial knowledge of this town. So, okay, so there's nothing to vote on tonight. This was just a preliminary discussion that that gives you, we're not going to meet for another month. So everybody's got a chance to do some homework between now and then, whatever you want to do to understand this better. And then on the 11th, we will roll up our sleeves and set the budget process. We'll invite advisory to that meeting and try to come up with the process, 2 or 3 months before we normally do, because of the importance of trying to get this override teed up in a way that people truly, hopefully understand what we're going to ask you to do. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Can we take a short break?
Yes, we can. So we're going to take a short recess. Vanessa.
Yeah.
These have to follow that, but
Okay. It's like article about it or something.
it's just what is it? In our opinion from DLS.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, what you were saying is a lot of other towns do.
It's well, it's up to whoever to present it. That meeting will say, okay, we're gonna collapse it all in one number.
Hey, Brian, can you see if Andrew can come on August 11th?
And it'll be up for us to figure out how we're gonna. Yeah. We do that.
What's that? I didn't hear what you said.
So can I take some water?
Oh, yeah.
I talked to Billy, we already start to see some.
Oh, okay.
He's well into the paving, Paul. Do you know that?
Pine Hill.
We got, it is a mess, but I'm okay. I keep stopping and talking to guys that I'm okay with this. I'm okay. So he's well, he's got that. He's got Northborough
Do
Road.
we know when Pine Hill's supposed to be done?
What?
Do we know when Pine Hill's supposed to be done?
Well, it depends on who you talk to. he thinks they're ahead of schedule. I would say that. They've had really good weather and today they worked the whole day. In the rain, and I think they got it done. So they haven't started, they've got the sidewalk dug out, but nothing done on that one. So I'd say they're probably still another good 2 weeks from being done.
I've been driving the gravel a couple times.
Why are you driving up?
To go to that 63 house that Annie has.
Why do you have to go there?
I had to drop stuff off.
So, you know, you can either come in, you need to know where they are on that day as far as which way.
All the way around.
You usually don't have to. You've got a choice usually, but one's usually much better than the other, but you don't know, and they don't know because they got people on both ends. They don't know where the better way to go. So you have to kind of guess which way it goes.
Kathy,
Yes, sir.
you guys have any flexibility in terms of dealing with Freddie? I know she can be a problem.
I can't say too much, Paul. I'll answer the best I can, okay? There's much more to the story than Vanessa, this bit's still going? You got us turned off, right?
Well, the recording is paused.
Okay.
But Bridget can hear the conversation because the microphones are still on.
Okay, but no one else can,
I don't think so.
And the attendees.
just in case. Let's make sure.
I know she's very.
I'm
difficult
like
to
Freddie.
deal with.
Hardly, you don't even know. And there's so much more to the story than you know. And I don't know where we're gonna end up. We are gonna put this on the agenda for, which I told Joyce before she even started. It's gonna be on the agenda for August 11th to at least
In
implement.
terms of the two committees.
Well, at least, well, first of all, this is not that easy to do. Open space is a town, is a bylaw committee, right?
I'm not in London then.
I am not gonna be there.
Next.
Yes, ready? Okay, so we are back in session at 9:03. Okay, going back to the top, so reports, so chair's report, I got quite a few things here, and I'll go as quickly as I can. Road work is well underway as far as the big projects for the summer, so that's all good, as we had hoped it would be. I've always said I'm very glad Al is back on advisory. I think that is just a boon to advisory, and very happy. I think they will be too. We do have on the agenda for August 11th to finish discussion as far as whether we want to do something about stewardship committee that would allow Freddie to stay on. So we will bring that to a head one way or the other on August 11th as far as that decision goes. I had told Joyce that prior to the meeting, so she actually knew that. Okay. Johnson Road, the 61A property, the Affordable House Trust, in the end did not want us to exercise the right of first refusal, so we didn't. The Johnson family knows that. They're very happy with us. They've agreed they're going to work with Affordable House Trust going forward as far as land. They think there's no more family members that want lots. So they're happy. And we live to fight another day as far as maybe getting some other from them. Let's see. At the last meeting, we agreed to do the office hours a little bit differently, at least temporarily for the summer. So Vanessa's in charge of this. If anyone wants to do a table at the 2 summer concert series or summer nights, let Vanessa know as far as doing that. So we talked about doing. So if you want to do it, I don't intend to volunteer, but if anybody wants to do it, then work with Vanessa to do it. Make sure we don't have a quorum sitting there. The 2 concert series are 7/16 and 7/30, and summer nights is August 22nd. If anybody would like to do a table. Okay, so that's it for me. Let's see. Sam, wastewater study?
Wastewater, good, thank you. Update, remember we recently had conversations about getting bottom line spending approval for a financial analysis consulting agreement with Mass Development. And a couple of weeks ago, wastewater committee became aware of some new information relative to possible issues with potential sites for a wastewater system, relative to things like soil conditions for a wastewater discharge area and DEP permitting. And this arose from some additional very valuable artificial intelligence assisted analysis provided by Mr. Belniak, who went out and did a fairly thorough search on the properties and so forth, and came up with a number of questions that we didn't have ready answers to. So bottom line is the wastewater committee met, I guess, a week ago, last Monday, and voted not to proceed with the Mass Development Consulting Agreement for the financial analysis until we could get better handle on these particular issues. We wanted to be more comfortable about the sites and the permitting process. Very disappointed to do this, but we deemed it the most responsible choice fiscally before we could actually have reasonable confidence, we thought, in sites. We didn't want to spend that money. So very much appreciate the substantial elements or efforts of the Mass Development team, this board, in terms of approving the bottom line spending. Mark and other town staff members for getting the stuff in place that we could have done that. We had gotten all the questions answered, but we just didn't feel it was the right choice to go forward. So we will meet again on the 23rd of this month to discuss next steps, which will certainly include a close review of the new issues and determine what we want to do about them over the next couple of months here. The question of what, if anything, we might want to take to fall special town meeting is still open, in the sense that we got a ruling from town council that for a district improvement financing program, you have a DIF plan, which is a very comprehensive plan, including an understanding or a picture of the area that you're using for the DIF assessments, the financial model for the long-term prospects for how it's all going to work, the site selection, the plant design, discharge area design, the collection system design, et cetera. It's a big document. It turns out that according to Mass General Law, which is somewhat ambiguous on the topic, you can separate the area from the full plan. You can first do the area only, the map of the area. Here's what we're going to do. This is the area for the assessment values. And then as a separate time, you can do the overall plan, which includes that map and other components as well. So there's technically the option to go ahead to a fall town meeting with the DIF area, which we think we have a pretty good handle on. But we want to get these other new issues resolved before we make that decision. So door is still open, but it looks less likely that we'll go to a fall town meeting with something. That door is not closed. So we'll work hard to get those issues resolved over the next few weeks here. So continue to keep select board informed as new information becomes available. Again, disappointing, but we think it's the right decision to slow down the process until we get these new issues addressed. So thank you for your support. More to come.
Okay, all right, Mark.
Just a couple of items. The first one is just a reminder that the annual Battle of the Boroughs at the Worcester Red Sox, the Blue Sox game is July 22nd. And tickets that are purchased for that game will benefit a nonprofit from each town at the end of the season. Any tickets that are purchased by Southborough are benefiting the scholarship fund. And you know, it's usually a great time it's usually a good night. We do Recreation did a nice job putting together a flyer, which we have tried to use in various places, and that has the QR code, you know, that people can go to purchase tickets. So would encourage people to do that.
Is that the one where Steve Wynot is going to throw out the pit?
Yes, I'm sorry, yes. And so they're trying to have each community represented by a local hometown hero. So we had put Steve Wynot forward. Again, Steve was recently recognized this past year with the Memorial Day services and that for his years of service to the town, you know, for veterans, as well as you know, the master of ceremonies for our Veterans Day and for Memorial Day parade. So you know, Steve has had a little bit of time to learn how to throw a baseball. Although I do understand, I believe Vanessa, he had said that he used to pitch a lot of softball. Okay, same thing. So and I think, you know, we've got a couple of people sitting at this table to kind of pave the way for how it's supposed to be done. So
Yeah, like me.
I'm not naming names. I'm just
You know, it's me.
couple of
Why did you
people.
say it's me?
Couple of people. Andrew did it too.
Did you throw a strike, Andrew? I threw a strike. And those guys around me didn't. So just so you know, my husband was so nervous that I was gonna mess up. So anyway. Okay, so I retired. All right, so that's great. He's agreed to do it. He's gonna do it.
He
So
has,
that's good.
yes.
Good. So I hope we get a lot of people that go, because that's also a good charity to support here. A good.
Exactly. And the only other item that I wanted to talk a little bit about, and I would defer to Sam if Sam wanted to jump in, but I'll frame it, is the Mass 250th Committee was recreating copies of the Declaration of Independence using old printing presses and linen paper. And they were creating one for each community, and it was delivered by the legislative delegation. It was very quick. We got the notice quick. They said, can we come out Monday? You know, and we'd like to come out at this time, if that works for you. But if it doesn't, it's really kind of got to be that time. So, you know, anyone who could be here, town clerk, select board, you know, Mr. Hegarty unfortunately was on vacation, and it was just a really busy time. So I appreciated that Mr. Stivers took time out of his day. Couldn't get Mr. Hegarty to come back from vacation, you know, which is understandable, but Mr. Stivers took time out of his day. Representative Donahue and Senator Eldridge joined Mr. Stivers, myself, Ms. Hale, and the deputy town clerk to basically take some pictures and to formally receive the document. Have it downstairs. I didn't want to bring it up. I don't really like touching it because it's linen. But we are going to work on getting that framed and finding a suitable location in the building. I think it's going to be somewhere close to where, when you come in the building, it's one of the first things you'll see. So we're gonna work on putting that together. I'll leave that to Miss Hale. She does a lot of that stuff a lot better than I do. So that's. Sam, did you want to, I'm sorry, stepped all over it. Do you want to chime in, or?
I was happy to serve as the select board wallpaper for the picture there. So grateful that I didn't insist on reading the whole document.
Yes.
So I'm glad you've got a plan to hang it, because as you know, we've had trouble historically over the years keeping track of our historical items. So this is good that you're gonna hang us, so hopefully it's a good place for it. So, this select board, everybody works, right? So it's hard for us to do things during the day. So Sam.
Well,
thank you
short
for
notice,
this.
too.
Yeah, I know. So
Yeah.
Sam, thank you for making us look good.
No problem.
All right, is that it?
That's it.
Okay, all right, consent agenda. Let's see if we can do this over fast. Okay, so anyone have a problem with the minutes for June 16th?
Yep, a few.
Guess we'll hold
few
that
little
one,
things.
June 29th. Those were okay for me.
Nope.
Okay, so 16th, okay, anything else anybody wants held besides A? Because I want to hold C, D, E, H, and K. They're quick, whoever laughed, it's quick, they're all kind of for the same reason. Okay, so Sam, what do you got for the minutes from the 16th?
16th, line 218, 218, the little language change. Instead of district improvement financing plan, I want to say diff area, capital D, capital I, capital F, diff area related to a district improvement financing plan.
What did you want to change?
Line 218.
I
where
see
it says
218.
District improvement financing plan.
Yeah.
I want to add in front of that diff area related to a. We're not talking about the plan, we're talking about the diff area here, which is a separate piece of.
Okay, I hope she understands those.
Okay.
Anything else?
Yep, line 220. Instead of that, should be committee head. Instead of that.
He stated the committee that
Had
learned.
yeah. And in line 237, it's the Community Preservation Committee.
So Bridget, conservation is community.
And
Okay.
commission is committee.
That's true. So it's Community Preservation Committee. Okay,
And that's it.
I got a couple more. Anybody else have one on this one? So Bridget, can you just eliminate on line 223, starting with Ms. Cook? That's not exactly what I asked for. So just get rid of that whole sentence. Ms. Cook asked if this bottom line spending request would be ready in time for fall town meeting. Just get rid of that whole sentence. We don't need it. On line 238, determine its list of projects to bring forward to a fall special town meeting. Just add the word to. On line 241, meeting should be plurals. Meetings would begin at 10 a.m. both of them. That's all I've got. Okay. So I just want to hold C and D for any for the same reason. So C is the donation that New England Center for Children makes to us. It's voluntary. It's based on the approximate real estate taxes that used to be paid on one of the buildings that they bought from Tony Kwan. Tony Kwan negotiated that deal with them. And so because of Tony Kwan, we get $105,000 a year from NEC. They've also agreed recently to increase that. Andrew Pfaff and I dealt with them, and they also have agreed to increase it because they bought another building and took it off the town roads. They're going to add that to this too. So going forward, the number should go up fairly substantially. Faye, as you know, has agreed to donate $20,000 toward the drone purchase for fiscal year 26, and they have now agreed to donate another $20,000 for fiscal year 27. So we are much appreciative of that. Chief Newell wrote the school a very nice letter, which they appreciate. St. Mark's, we've already gotten St. Mark's' big donation, but this is an example. They do a lot more than that. So I don't think we ever really fully thank them for everything they do. We get a whole lot of in-kind donations from both schools, from Faye also, as far as using fields, using facilities, sharing resources, et cetera. So this is just another example of something St. Mark's does beyond the big check that we get for police stuff and fire stuff and general fund stuff. Okay, item H. Did everybody see item H as far as what's being proposed to do for the mural on the sign? I
Thought it was great.
Love it.
Oh. Yeah, aye.
Then I've got the wrong agenda. Okay, so I looked at my, okay, so then I don't want to, so whatever I do. Okay, so I want to hold I and not H, sorry. Okay, so, did everyone see the picture of it? as
Yeah.
far as what it could look like.
Mhm.
Okay, the only thing I want to emphasize, and I hope Travis is listening to it, so if you could re-emphasize, is that we need to approve it before it gets done, as far as what it looks like in case. It looks like he's got the parameters in place to make sure that nothing inappropriate goes on there, but we still should just make sure. Okay.
So I have a question about this one. I'm all for this, but thinking it down to the art that happened, I believe in Texas over the FIFA mural, the whale mural. Is there a time that we should have on these sort of things, that a duration of like when it's there for, just as an upfront expectation? Because it might need to be touched up over time. I just want to be like kind of somewhat upfront about this, so that way somebody doesn't feel bad that if it gets painted over or something happens in several years due to whatever reason, that it's not like this is a forever thing. I'm all for it. I think it's a great idea, and I like seeing things like this. I just wonder if there should be some sort of like sunset clause within these sort of approvals.
Well, as far as I know, we haven't signed any, I mean, there's no agreement with her, right?
No, but I mean, just it's an expectation. I don't know what happened with the whale in particular, but I mean, was many years, 30 years later, and it's still being discussed about it because it's art, it was an installation, it's somebody's creative input. So I just, it's something I've thought about. I'm just curious if there's anything or any position or any comments we should make as we do this.
Maybe worth having a letter of understanding or something about it that says the town has the right to,
It's a pretty small sign.
Yeah.
It's on town property. We control it. So I'm not sure in 25 years, the numbers are going to be sitting here, I'm pretty sure. So
That's the picture.
yeah, and it's small, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know, Tim.
like I said, I'm all
This-
for it. I just want, a clear expectation of like if something needs to happen, kind of,
Well, if it did,
I don't know
you
that
would
we
have the
can,
right to do
it's
it.
gonna gradually chip and fade over time, and then we'll just figure it out later. That's my approach. We don't need to address this right now.
required to
It
get
is what it is.
water soluble media.
Everybody okay with the proposal?
Yes.
yeah, I'm okay with it.
All right, so my point was just to make sure that somebody has final approval on what she decides to do, so we don't end up with something that is inappropriate. Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve items A, B, A with amended minutes, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, all of them, A through R.
Second.
All in favor? That's done. Okay, we're almost done. Okay, so the next, most important matter of the whole night is Mr. Purple's annual performance review. And it is important, even though it's last. Sorry. Okay, so what we did this year is only the 3 people that were on the select board last year actually did the performance review. We did give Al and Marguerite a chance to provide input. They chose not to, which is their prerogative. So the 3 people that actually Mr. Purple reported to for the past year did his performance review. Each person on the select board last year met with Mr. Purple individually to basically discuss his performance and things that they wanted to talk about. So that's been done by each of us separately, individually. Then what Vanessa did is she basically took numerically the ratings that everybody assigned in the 5 categories to determine an overall rating. So I will say this, the person that always spends the most time with Mr. Purple every year by far is the chair, which was of course Andrew. Until you're chair, you don't realize how much time you spend with Mr. Purple. Things come up all the time, all day long, that you gotta talk about. There are times and whatever. So there's a lot. So Andrew spent more time with Mark than anyone. And the point I'm trying to make is Andrew's, even though I did a mathematical divided by 3, I could have also given Andrew's ratings double weight, but I didn't do that. Andrew's ratings were generally higher than Tim's and mine. They were all good ratings, but Andrew's were higher. But Andrew also spent more time with Mark this past year, so I think it's important to point that out. Okay, so I'm just gonna go to the bottom line, then we're gonna talk about the goals. So overall, using a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rating, with 1 being doesn't meet expectations and 5 being far exceeding expectations. Mark's overall rating, when you average mathematically, just do a mathematical mean, was 3.59, so call it 3.6. So between a 3 and a 4, closer to a 4 than a 3. Okay, so good rating. Mark, I think you do a very good job. I think you're a good town administrator. I'll let the other two chime in here. You've got a very difficult job. You have to deal with a different select board person every single year, get used to them and, help them understand how this world works, etc. And you got lots of balls that you have to juggle every single day. You never know what you're going to come into to face either, which again, being the chair, you kind of understand that. Andrew will understand what I'm talking about. You just never know what's going to come up during a day that's got to be dealt with immediately. So I appreciate what you do. I appreciate working with you. And there you go.
Thank you.
Okay. AD.
Sure. So, I think Mark and I have found a way to work well together. The 2 times that I was chair. A couple of things that I think I talked to Mark about when I spoke with him are, I think we have a good team of department heads, and that didn't just happen by accident. It was the result of a couple of years of work, because there's been turnover at all those positions in the last 4 years. And I think everyone seems to be working well together. The last year, we had 3 town meetings, and they all went pretty well, I think. And again, that's not something that just happened by accident. It was the result of a lot of work. And just want to emphasize the point, Kathy, that you made about, it's a difficult position where you have the vicissitudes or different idiosyncrasies of different select board members all cycling on and off. We did have a 2-year period where there was, I think, no change, right? That was a couple of years ago. I think you've been a force for stability, which has been good. And, Vanessa provides you outstanding support as well. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Tim.
Mark, I think we've done a pretty good job over the last year, especially getting me up to speed. Having you with the knowledgeable communication of everything, how things are working, who's doing what, and the updates that I do as a crash course running through your office on typically a Tuesday before the meeting, have been super helpful and good for what I need to be able to help lead this. You and I've already talked about the details of this, and I think that overall your communication is great. And I think that leaning on the staff somewhere in the next year is really what I'm looking forward to. But overall, the communication, everything else is where I like to think I need to be, and where I think the board has found it useful. So good job in that regard.
Thank you.
So thank you, Mark, from both of you. Now, let's talk about fiscal year 27. Let's move forward and see what we can get done. Okay, so in the past, we can always change this, but the last few years, Mark has basically proposed a couple of goals that he'd like to accomplish for the next year. And the select board has proposed 2 or 3 goals that they would like to see him accomplish. So we just agreed on 4 or 5 goals as far as the next fiscal year. So before we get into those, Andrew, you've got a list of, you want to hand yours out because Tim handed his out too. So Tim put together some goals that he handed out. That's from me. So Andrew's got a few too.
Yeah, that's a copy. Tim, you have one.
Yeah, I have a copy.
Let's start with the goals for fiscal year 26 because I think a couple might carry over to fiscal year 27. Okay, so last year one of the first goals was moving forward with the funding and construction of the Metro West Rec. As far as I'm concerned, that was done. It's construction is almost ready to start. Everything's moving forward. We think it's going to happen. We think we'll be off the races 1/1/28, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone want to keep that on there? We think that is progressing like it should, and therefore should not be a goal.
I don't think it needs to be a goal. I think it's just operational at this point.
ED?
Unclear to me because, when you flip the switch, right, there's a lot of software integration that needs to happen. And I think we want that to go as smooth as possible. I mean, I would think that's really something that you're on the board, right?
Correct.
But then also, are the chiefs on the board too?
So each community has 2 spots for the chiefs on the operational committee.
Okay.
Okay, so you've got Chief Pantini and
Yep.
Chief Newell represented. Chief Pantini actually chairs that committee.
Okay.
Okay, so then you have the financial subcommittee, of which, Mr. Ballantyne represents the committee along with me on that. So, there is more representation for the project itself. We do have the executive director in place. We do have now we have a great OPM, who is really helping move this project forward in the right way. So there's a lot of hands involved with it. But yes, I sit on the board for the town.
So Andrew, do you want to keep this on there until it's really, the switch is on, as you say? So that, we keep talking about this to make sure that it really does, happen?
Sure.
Okay, so, and that's okay, I mean, that's it.
Mhm.
Right, so we'll keep that one on there too. We really are moved in, okay? We're gonna invite the rec director to one of the September meetings too, so we'll get an update. Okay, the next one was reducing healthcare costs for the town. So I personally would like to keep that one on there. I don't think we're there yet. I think we've got a lot of work to do. We set it as a goal for us too, so I think it should be, a joint goal. Go where you help us. But I do think this is, to me, one of the primary things we've got to work on this year. So I'd like to keep this one on there as far as Mark working with us to truly look at all options as far as healthcare plans, both active and retiree, so we can continue to try to reduce the cost of that benefit.
I think, if I can go, this could roll up underneath a budget line. Having this as a standalone goal, I don't think is absolutely necessary. I think it falls into the greater, maybe FY28 budget planning, financial strategy element.
The reason I disagree with you, Tim, is because there are some substantial things we could look at that really will take a lot of work to do right, a lot of explaining, a lot of thought, such as decoupling from the state law that provides retiree insurance that we alluded to when we had the Perth Linda come in front of us on May 19th, I believe. So I really do think this is separate from the budget, and then truly trying to make sure we end up with everyone on a health plan that has a deductible, which is what we were hoping for last year. And, we got maybe a third of the way there or so. The schools are talking about doing some things with their bargaining ability. So there's just a process that we need to understand what can be done to try to achieve that. So I think it's way beyond the budget process as far as that goes. This is a big thing.
I also think that's probably my number one goal. I think that we should
It's
have.
mine for sure, because it's $1 million a year savings.
I mean, Mark, you can speak to this too, but so we made just the introduction of the high deductible health plan was a significant starting point,
It
right?
was.
And I heard, our enrollment figures the first year are okay. We want to do better, and this is for picking town administrator goals. I think it's good to think of things where select board members can't do it. It requires a long, sustained effort over a period of time and working with people in the building to do that. So that's why I think that also we need to do this, right?
Yes. We've got to do something about this budget, this one big budget. Sam, do you have any issue with having this stay on Mark's
I agree, a big one, yeah.
AP?
I think it's good, but I think we just, I don't know if we need to do it now or once we flesh it out in terms of what are the kind of deliverables or action items, what do you want to look at?
Oh, I agree. It's got, this is overarching. I think I've got that goal assigned to me. You've got the goal.
I think you and I.
You and I, okay, so this is gonna be a combo of us working together. So I agree, lots of details, but I still think it should be on
No, I
Mark's.
think it's one of the key
Because that's what Andrew said. Mark is in the building talking to employees, and so he's got to help convince employees as far as the benefits of this. Okay, so we're okay with that one?
How many goals are we gonna try to land with?
We've done in the past 4 or 5. We could, you know, the way we're going, we made up a 6 tonight.
Okay.
Okay, you've got a lot on your list, Andrew's got a lot on his list, so let's just see where we end up here. Okay, goal 3, resolve staffing issues within the building department. Mark Roberto got hired, you know, we had 2 hires that didn't work out, let me just say it that way, for different reasons, and we brought Mark back, and I think this one's done, right?
Correct.
Okay, check this one off, right? Katie Berry's down there. Look at the department down there. You got Katie Berry, you've got Laura Davis, you've got lots of good people down there. So I think that department is as solid as it can be, right?
Mhm.
So I'd say
Very
check
good.
that one off. Okay, the website. Anyone want to take this one? Tim, did you close? I even read what you wrote. Did you put website on what you put
I don't
here?
have a specific website goal. I have just a general technology improvement opportunity, and this could be honestly a footnote in there, even though it's bigger than a footnote. But I think some other things might be more priority than maybe fixing the entire website.
Website's high on my list. I think that's something that could have an impact on the entire population in town if we do a better job.
High on your list, right?
High on my list.
It's high on my
So
list.
it's
too.
under our select board goals. I think I'm the assigned person and I'll obviously work with Jay on it. I mean, it's going to get done because we're in a renewal cycle right on our.
So you'd rather you and Jay work on it and not make that one of Mark's?
No, I think, well, I'm curious what Mark, thinks about it. I can certainly use all the help I could get.
If we're gonna end up with 7 goals for me, I'm happy to take the help. So I really think it's gonna be, Jay is gonna have to be involved in
Yeah,
this.
absolutely.
Vanessa and I have had some conversations. There may be some other staff people that we can help to pull in on this, that, we're thinking about how to do this. I don't think it's all Jay, because it's probably as much aesthetics and that as it is actual technical pieces.
Yeah,
Right,
absolutely.
so it's where things are, what's available, how you get to certain places, how it all connects.
I attended an MMA webinar on this recently. And it was pretty interesting in that you're right, Mark, it's not just technical,
Is it last week?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was on that too.
not just technical.
Yeah,
And to me, there are some sort of universal things out there in terms of what you need. You need access to information, you need navigation support, et cetera. There are a lot of towns that have done that. Many of them actually have a communications person who drives the process, who is not a technician, but who understands what's available in terms of Civic Plus, which is not a bad thing. Apparently, a lot of people are doing good work with that. Sometimes you got to buy features in Civic Plus that you don't have to give you the functionality you need. But also the signal I got from that everybody has very similar problems. We're not unique. Very few people are unique there. So you don't maybe need to do a major study, but you probably could get great value from finding some consulting money to get somebody who's done it 10 times and let you know sort of the overarching things that you need to do, and makes recommendations about how you improve access to information, how you improve navigation support in there. And many of them apparently start with a survey of, they track the path that people take through your website. My bet is that that's pretty similar for most towns, in fact, so you don't have to do maybe a lot of research to get a pretty good idea of what people want to see from that, like meeting schedules, for example, and minutes from committee meetings. Those kind of things are pretty high on the list, I think. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel there, but somebody who's done that a number of times, I bet we could find for reasonably short money to help us lay that out. And then MTC people can get involved in that, certainly, but it's more than just a technical thing at this point. And I don't think we got the internal resources to do that kind of high-level communications view, unfortunately.
right. And I think it's branding too, Sam.
Yep.
We talked a little bit, we did the wayfinding discussion, the board really wasn't sure about, the branding aspect of a lot of the signage and everything. I think that ties into some of the website stuff. If we're going to establish a brand or establish how we want to promote ourselves, and that should carry through all of our things, and website's a great place to start.
And the other message I heard was that you can actually do that within a reasonable period of time, like 6 to 9 months is not an unreasonable time to actually go through and
Right.
do the plan and do the implementation on it. So we could do that over the next 12 months here, I think, and that'd be.
All right, so we agree that Andrew and Mark are gonna work with Jay and whoever appropriate to improve our website.
Well, I just would expand, I would like to expand it to the top 4 bullets that I had under the website section on mine. It's basically the same thing, but it kind of elaborates a little more on the website in terms of, you know, refresh, usability. That's the same thing on the website, but I do think expanding it to Sam's point in terms of like
Where are
total.
you talking about?
So these 2, which is basically just the first 2 bullets, which are, you know, update the website. And then I go to the next page, like a digital communication and social media policy. Consistency, which is Mark was talking about in terms of how you do things. So just, and then, you know, I do like the idea of adding the financial transparency part to the website, but again, it's all website related, but not just your regular Civic Plus, you know, FY27 update, but adding a little extra link to that goal.
Okay, so the first 4
Just the
bullets?
4 bullets.
Okay, so is that okay, Andrew? Andrew, didn't.
Looking at them more carefully now.
Okay, the first one we're talking about, that's what we're talking about.
Correct.
Okay, so that was fine.
Even the second one is. the
Second
same
one's still
thing.
part of it too. That's
Correct.
what you're trying to
I
accomplish.
don't know. So I would need some help in knowing what open checkbook is and how you would do that.
Yeah, I'm not sure that all ties into
Okay.
the same thing.
And that's Andrew Pfaff's goal already, as far as our goal. So, Andrew, maybe you still work on that separately with
Yeah.
Brian, whatever, and then figure out how this all works with the website and you can bring that to.
And I've already showed it to Jay. It's embedded inside the website. That's why I'm saying it just kind of has a loose tie into the website design.
So maybe you still work on that piece of it. and
Yeah, yeah.
figure out How to get it to
Well,
the
then just,
website,
you know.
right? Okay.
Mark can help facilitate if needed.
Sure. Okay.
I mean, again, not all these are like for you to do, but it's for you just to make sure somebody's doing it.
Okay, so you got 3 goals so far. Okay, his goal 5 last year was to streamline 4 processes. The ones he looked at were applicant tracking, payroll, licensing, weights and measures. Payroll, we've got a very good payroll person now, Christine Russell, and she is, we've changed our vendor, right, Mark, to Harper's?
It's still Harper's, but we're elevating to more of a online portal.
Okay, that's still Harper's.
Yes, it's still Harper's.
And that's gonna be done by 12/31/26.
End of this calendar year is the goal.
All right, and so what I had, so I think hopefully that's still gonna keep going, right?
Yeah.
And then what I suggested is, she looks at the schools and tries to integrate the school payroll, so we don't do 2 different payrolls and have to add them together, which is what we do right now. It's still one
Yep.
legal entity, so I look at that too. All right, so I don't know, we gotta make that another goal, but we just we've got a process in place to do that, right?
It's already in process.
The applicant tracking, everyone, we used to have software that did that when people applied for jobs. We ended up losing the software and not taking it out of the budget, so we don't have it anymore, right? You were gonna look and see how much it is?
Yeah, I was talking with Ms. Hill about that. I mean, if you wanted to understand this whole piece and that, I'd invite her to speak to it, but we don't have a price or something like that. We're trying to figure out what other people are using. We weren't necessarily overjoyed with the old product. We liked what it did, but not quite how it did it. So if we do go back to this, we'd probably, look to see what other people are using now.
Well, it's everyone.
I don't think it should be a standalone goal.
All right, so we think you should look at it, come back to cost, we may put it in the budget for next year, for fiscal year 28. You got plenty of time to do it and not be a goal, but something still something that really would streamline the process, which it sounds like it would if you had the right software, then it's probably worth looking at, but not a goal.
Yes.
Okay. All right, the licensing, let's see. Okay, so Rachel is working on transitioning this to OpenGov.
Correct.
Okay, so no reason to make that a goal.
No,
right?
that's something that's in process. Like I said, Rachel has done a really good job of digging into a lot of the things that the position requires. Public records being one of them. As of July 1st, she's now our new records access officer. Best news I've had in 6 years.
Did everybody get what I'm looking at as far as marks? Okay, so you saw the weights and measures paragraph that Katie Berry wants to do this in-house, which would save some money. So I'd say,
So like I said, so Rachel's been doing a great job with all of that stuff and then obviously in the weights and measures, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but essentially the state, we didn't have the capability to do what the House state is taking over for. State doesn't really want to do this anymore, but they're keeping us on, but the price is getting exorbitant. Mark and I have chatted. There is someone in-house who would be interested in doing this. And so we're going to look to bring this back in-house for next fiscal year. State will do the training, state will help with the integration, and there'll be no cost, for that piece. So trying to, bring some stability back for the weights and measures.
okay. So we've ended up so far with 3 goals, right? Working with us on revamping the entire healthcare structure in the town as far as the choices there, right? Continue to move forward with the construction of the Metro West rec until it's fired up, ready to go, and the website.
Correct.
Okay. Now, the goals that Mark suggested for himself, we're going to go back to yours, Tim, and to yours, Andrew, as far as other things you want. So we've already talked about the HPHAS. So we've been on that one. Pay and classification study is started. We think that they will finish their work in time to be considered for next annual town meeting. So it's a while away. This is important, and so it does need some guidance. So Mark is proposing that he basically, that's one of his goals, is to have a successful implementation of their recommendations.
Possibly. I mean, I had it on kind of on mine, but yeah.
You have it on yours?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I have it as lumped in with insurance, but I think it could be definitely separated into 2. But I don't know if that is my number 1 priority. If there's 4 or 5 or 6 goals, I would say that was 5 or 6.
AD?
I'm just trying to think of the total number of goals that we should have, which I liked having 4 before, 2 that were kind of
2 and
chosen by
2.
the select board. So I don't know where we are in that process.
That sounds right to me, either 4 or 5, not
Yeah.
more than 5. Then they don't get done. So we've already got 3.
Maybe this is one of the Mark selected ones.
Yeah. So everybody's okay with this one being one of his 2?
I would drop it way to the bottom of the list personally.
I see it as important, but maybe not as high as some of the others we're talking about.
So all I will add, I'm fine either way. This is going to be a process, but if they're not done correctly, then we will have what happened the last time we did one. And we continued to do things for the next 2.5 years after the study was done.
So maybe I've just become, I have such low expectations now of this. I mean, because I'm used to we did it, which made substantial changes, and then people became unhappy, and then we just got lobbied to make incremental changes, which we did. And instead of having this, it's supposed to happen on a cycle every 4 years, right? We were now doing it basically
This
every
is 4
2
now.
years.
This is 4. So,
Okay.
we tried to accelerate and didn't pass. This is 4, but everything you said is true, but more also, those on the personnel board, like Barry and Jason, didn't think it was done right. So that was part of the problem too. That's why they tried to accelerate it. It failed, but they did think there were issues with it. So hopefully we won't have issues.
In terms of the vendor that we used, or the.
Yeah, I think there were issues with the vendor. I think there was issues with the process. And some of those things were, tried to correct, be corrected as the process went through.
So the goal would be to do it in a way where obviously, right, they're going to come back with recommendations that are going to be part of a revision of the SAP.
Correct.
That's going to be a warrant article. We want that to pass, right?
Yes.
And then we want the measure of the success is that there won't be revisions to it in the next 4 years, right? It's hard to.
Or you have the least
Yeah, the
number of
least amount
unhappy
of
people.
complaining.
Does this need to be a
Everybody
union?
won't be happy, but maybe.
So it's hard to, see how that plays out, right?
There are some, all of the employees that work here are valuable, no doubt about it. But there are a few that, I know that Mr. Malinowski, has said that he does believe there are changes that are warranted as far as pay, classification, et cetera. So this is a delicate thing, you need to do this with finesse, and, again, try to have the least unhappy people. So I think it does require some oversight besides just a personnel board to try to do this as effectively as possible. So I'm fine with this being a goal.
Does it need to be Mark's goal?
To be what?
Does it need to be Mark's goal, or can it be somebody else's goal on the staff? Because I don't know if it needs to be Mark's goal necessarily. I think maybe this one could go, maybe Vanessa or somebody else would take point on this one.
I mean, a lot of these goals that I have, there's going to be trickle down, right?
Yeah.
There's going to be other people that I'm involving in these goals, which will determine the success of the failure. Hopefully I choose well.
Yeah.
Obviously, Vanessa is, my 1A when it comes to, and sometimes I'm her 1A when it comes to the personnel, the personnel things. So she's going to play heavily into this goal as well. So that's not an untrue statement, Tim. But, so like I said, this is one of those things, and I know sometimes the board has talked about whether something should be a goal if it's going to happen anyway. I'm going to be involved in this. This is going to take my time, which, if it's something that is going to take a significant amount of time, it should be something that, it is a goal. But even if we decide it's not a goal for me tonight, it's still going to be something I'm going to have to take a lot of time on. So either way.
We're talking about, in some cases, department heads here, which is why I think Mark's got to be involved, Vanessa also, but these are department heads in some cases.
I get it. I just think if we look at what we're doing here and we have high level goals, some of what Andrew Pfaff has on his list here seem to be, in my mind, more all encompassing high level goals that allow Mark to take lead of the team and hand down, but he's ultimately responsible. They're just worded in a different way. So mine are a very similar setup. So I'm looking at some of these, and I mean, I'm this year, budget year, I've FY28 budget planning, financial strategy, and public communication as a high level goal. I would say that's way more important to, I mean, I'm not saying we can get this wrong. I'm just saying from where we stand, we should have the budget planning, financial strategy, and public communication process higher as a priority list than the personnel study specifically. So from where I'm standing, I'm going to put that one as number one. We're talking about overrides. We're talking about $10 million. We're talking about all these other things.
Yeah, but do you think that's Mark's job? See, it's totally important, but I don't think that is Mark's job. I think that's our job.
We have a number of boards a number of people and department heads that report to Mark. So if Mark is driving them to be more efficient from his goal and really looking at everything that they're giving back to them, and that's his piece, I have more confidence at the end of the day that we're going to have it. We ultimately just have to, we do what we can, but we have people that are doing their jobs. So Mark has to lead his team to do the job. And that's why I think it should be his goal.
And he's got that here on number 4, right? His number 4 is basically what Tim was talking about. And my number 1, it's basically the same operational override, FY28 budget, understanding the cost drivers, coming up with scenarios of override, no override.
Okay, well, what's Mark's goal?
Well, there's multiple here that are our goal and Mark's goal. Like he has the health insurance, that was ours as well. So wait a minute, we're pretty well synced up. And the only one that on Mark's that I haven't questioned, I think the pay and classification, to Tim's point, is probably less on my importance, but I think we can add it. I don't think that's fine. And then the DLS financial review, governance structure review, I think is very specific to that one department, but should be expanded to what we had talked about more about.
So you got it here and he's got it there. He's got it in his.
Correct. We have them both, but in mine, I also have kind of looking on it in terms of more town-wide organizational charts, boards and committees, some of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, high level elements that we have information that we can use as action items.
Yeah, I think the DLS, I think we should do it. I just think it's part of, that's just one government structure review from the financial, department perspective, but we should look at the other department.
Town charter in there, actually.
Sam, you haven't said much about this.
Yeah, exactly.
And what?
You haven't said much. Well, what would you like to see for a?
I'm on board with what we're talking about generally, but one of the things that was on my list is looking hard for ways that we can incorporate artificial intelligence capacity in what we do. And a lot of people are doing things there that don't make sense. You got to be careful with it. On the other hand, I think having somebody take a look at where our people spend their time, and are there places where we spend a lot of time that potentially can be assisted by AI. I think it's important to start looking at that kind of thing. Not that we necessarily are on the verge of doing massive implementation there, but I think that that's going to generate a lot of capacity to help administrative functions.
That's
forward.
That's my goal number one laid out. So
Okay, you say that's my goal. Mark is a town administrator. He's not a town manager. He's trying to administer what we set as policies. So we're trying to set goals for him as far as what fits
Yes.
within his job description.
When I said my goal, I meant the paper that I handed everybody as the goal that I wrote up for Mark. Goal number one on the document I gave empowers Mark to the team to do a smart implementation of these ideas. It has his team go back and come up with at least one administrative process suitable for streamlining for automation or modernization. It has Jay Montijo specify what the rules of engagement are here to keep our network safe. And it has Mark leading the charge.
And
Okay, on our goal, slip or go, we said expand responsible use of AI and automation across town operations, including employee training for all staff. The two SB people are Andrew in Newtown and Jay Montijo is department liaison. So
Yeah, I just don't know, no offense, Mark, if AI is your number one strong suit and focus, I'd rather focus it on Jay and MTC and advise, some of
he
them
can't be everything. It's not.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll tell you it's not. Right?
Just, that's why I've got a team, right? Because, if I could do everything, then what do you need a team for, right?
Right.
There are people who have certain expertise. Miss Hale does, many things better than I do, and that I rely on her to do those.
Right. The ones that we need your specific skill set to accomplish. And I don't know if that's one that we want you devoting all your time to.
But I think you
I'd be
said it
happy to
right.
be involved
It's
in it,
you, it's Fling, it's Montijo, and it's definitely MTC. I mean, those guys.
But
oh,
somebody
AI.
needs to push the organization to get in line with that. And the organization reports to Mark, basically.
That's part of Mark's day-to-day job is to make sure if we're getting pushback from department heads or people that we say, hey, Mark, can you make a call? What these guys aren't picking up the phone or whatever, but that's a small portion of what that conversation is going to be.
Maybe small but important.
Yeah, I think that if that group sets the path, I think then, it absolutely is my role to get people on the path. So.
Hey, Kathy,
Mhm.
one other sort of process comment that occurred to me as I was thinking about this is I have participated in the goal setting historically, but I've never really felt like I had a great feel for how it's going during the year. And it seems to me if I'm a project manager, I start out by putting together a work plan to say, how are we going to do this particular, how am I going to achieve this in terms of key tasks and timing and so forth. And I think it'd be useful for some of these maybe to try something like that and say, let's develop a work plan, identify quarterly milestones and provide updates to the select board about how we're doing on these things. And maybe not all of them, but pick one or two and try that and see how that works, if it makes sense, because give me a much better feel for how we're doing on these things and maybe having an opportunity to weigh in or discuss modifying things as we go along versus coming to the end of the year and saying, well, we've done these things, we haven't done those things.
Need your help here.
I agree. It
We're
makes
gonna
sense that, I
use
agree, it
goals
makes
that aren't,
sense.
I mean, I think we're asking goals that are not in his purview. We're trying to, so I think, everything that Tim and Andrew put here, these are great, but to me, these are more select board goals than they are
Oh.
Mark's.
Yeah, but our goals need to trickle into Mark's goals, so it trickles into the team's goals, so everybody's going towards the same direction here. So when I was looking at some of the reviews from that were shared, seeing things in there without enough meat to them to say, did that really measure back up to the board's goals? Like, we need to see some things in here. So that's why in what I handed to the team here, goal number 1, it says each department reporting to town administrator identifies at least one administrative process suitable for streamlining. And then the town administrator in collaboration with the IT director develops and maintains a prioritized implementation plan, identifying expected benefits, resource requirements, and implementation timelines. Like, our goal of streamlining everything becomes written into everybody else's goal. And that's why it's a goal of Mark's, so he can keep his team advancing on this particular topic.
Yeah, I mean, I just, that's an IT project management SDLC type life cycle that I don't think that Mark has the appetite or experience or should be spending his time on. I mean, that's the stuff that like I do on a day-to-day basis in terms of evaluation and organizational
So
transformation.
we've talked about the HD, healthcare savings.
Yep, which has a whole bunch of stuff, not just
Pay in class.
Yep.
Doing it well.
Yep. Getting the rec, truly
Yeah.
off its feet, going, making sure the town doesn't
So
have to
that-
pay for
so
anything.
I didn't think we had the record. I thought we said that was going to be BAU.
No, we changed our mind and said it's not, so Andrew didn't want to know that. I think it makes sense because, we still aren't out of the woods of making sure we're not going to pay for anything. So I think that to me is right under, I mean, he's on that board. That is truly.
So things that are really to be successful, they really they're kind of political in nature. I think those are ones where really it's on the select board, and anything government structure, consolidating committees, that is political in nature. You can just see that from the beginning part of our meeting.
Yeah.
That you would, on paper, it looks pretty simple, right? Consolidate these two boards, which you see politically how difficult it is. So I don't think that it's really productive to give Mark a goal like organizational structure and operational. It's a skilled thing that a select board member needs to do, which is very difficult. And also some of them about the like streamlining stuff, those were goals last year and they're just very difficult to.
Yeah, and he made progress, and so he's gonna keep moving forward on those. He picked 4 specific things, so.
So maybe just as the last one, look, I mean, the overall goal of, successful implementation of operational override, that is definitely a shared goal. Just like Mark, you were saying, there are things, even if we didn't write it down as a goal, even if select board didn't write it down as a goal, this has to happen. It's the most important thing that's happening this year. It's going to dominate everything we do. And that's also a reason why I'm just kind of less inclined, like, Al and I, we came from different perspectives on it, about, we came to town meeting with a article asking to create some type of, government, and it didn't pass. So I feel less up for getting the energy for taking another stab at it. That's also related to the DLS review. That's really on the select board at this point, right? The more challenging aspects of it, someone's going to take the bull by the horn, and then you'll quickly realize it's like a 3-year process if you wanted to.
We've got that on the agenda to, at least tentatively on August 11th to get that moving again.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm happy with what you just said, which is, yes, he's got to be a key component to solving our budget issues, including probably getting a operational override passed.
Yeah, I think it's website design and digital strategy, pay and classification, health insurance reduction, and strategy.
The rec.
I think we might want to include in that, I don't know, OPEB,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, just like health insurance and OPEB,
Yes.
which kind of ties into it.
Yeah.
Override / FY28 budget. And then the question is, what is that's for, right? Do we
The
do
rec.
a fifth of the rec or the DLS board's committee structure? But, I think one of those two
Wait,
is.
We're not
more our goal.
precluded from, out of meeting to and say, Mark, can you
Yeah.
please go do this? I mean,
But I think to your point, those are select board pieces, not Mark, but rec can be Mark. So I think.
yeah, because he's on the board. So I think that's right. I mean,
Okay,
he's doing that one. So,
I think those. can be the five.
it's, they haven't even started yet. So we want to see that rec up and running and successfully moved our people over. Okay,
All right.
everybody else go, okay?
Yep.
You right? Vanessa, did you write those down to make sure?
Want me to run through it again?
Poor
Yeah,
Bridget, yeah, do
run-
it again.
run
'cause
through it
poor
one more
Bridget's gotta
time.
listen to this to make sure.
Five
she
of
gets
them,
it.
website design and digital strategy. Pay and classification study, and there'll be different.
Successful implementation.
Successful implementation of, yeah, I mean, we can. detail that out.
Successful.
Health insurance cost reduction, including OPEB and others, things in there. Override and budget. With a whole bunch of details in there, and then rec. And
Okay.
I think we can flesh out the deliverables and the whatever for each one of them.
So would the override and budget be similar to like what you wrote down in your,
I think it's item number one, basically on my whole list, all
Okay.
that stuff.
yeah, as long as that one thing was in there, that was my big number one.
All right, Tim, we're gonna please you on this one. Okay. Mark, you get that
I mean, yeah, I mean,
override, you get that override pass for us.
Yes.
Yeah, but number one is inclusive of like different scenarios,
It
making sure you
covers a
work
lot.
with everybody.
It covers a lot.
I think it's gonna be pretty late. Okay, everybody happy with the goals?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to propose that the 5 goals that Vanessa just wrote down are the goals for Mark for fiscal year 27.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, all right, I think we're done on the executive session, right? Okay, the board will be entering into executive session for MGL Chapter 38, Section 21, and not returning to open session for the following. Number 1, to review and approve executive session minutes from June 2nd and June 16th, 2026, using exemption 7. And number 2, to discuss a memorandum of agreement with the DPW union, which is exemption 3. As the chair has determined that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the town's position. Okay, can I have a motion to move into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Sam,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
AD,
Aye.
AP,
Aye.
Cook is aye. Okay. Bye, Tim,
Tim, thanks for coming.
as always.